Township Council meeting, March 6th. Regular meeting is called to order. Public meeting statement. Notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Public Meetings Act, Open Public Meetings Act, by posting a copy of the agenda on the bulletin board at the municipal building on the township website, filing a copy of the agenda in the office of the township clerk at the municipal building, forwarding a copy of the agenda to the Central Record and Burlington County Times, forwarding written notice to each person who has requested copies of the regular meeting schedule. All of the above postings, filings, and mailings have taken place on the 2nd of March, 2012. All rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Here.
Mr. Bologna?
Here.
Mr. Watson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Chekai?
Here.
Mayor Hayes?
Here. Discussion regarding communications, scheduling matters, council agenda, and any amendments to the agenda. At this time, I need to move the Earth Hour proclamation directly after the approval of minutes. Let's see, budget meeting. I spoke with the manager earlier today. Because of the timeline for us submitting information to the state, we're looking at holding another council budget workshop sometime next week, the 12th through, sometime between the 12th through the 17th. If I could get a quick read on available dates from the four of you, that would help move that along.
That Wednesday, the 14th.
Anybody have any conflicts for the 14th?
Isn't that the GIF? There's a GIF elected officials seminar that Mr. Watson and I are scheduled to attend.
Okay.
How about the 13th?
I think I have a board meeting with AIGA that night, but I can miss that board meeting. So
How about the 15th?
I could do. I could do that.
13th. Back up. 13th. Any conflicts?
I'm fine.
13th.
I'll do the 13th.
Okay.
The 13th.
Mr. Manager, roughly what time are we looking at?
Up to council, last one we started at 6 p.m.
Okay. The only concern I have, if we're going to do it in this room,
We have to,
that we check with the municipal court and make sure there's no conflict for the 13th. So
we'll do that first thing in the morning, and then we'll let everybody know, and if it's available, we'll do the notice.
I'll do it later, 7.
7 o'clock?
Okay.
Yeah, 7's fine. All right, so
What's the purpose of this meeting? This is going to be, will this be?
It's another budget workshop. We have to nail down or start nailing down the information that that we're required to transmit to the state as it relates to any indication or effort we're going to make as a governing body to put to the public a referendum for a potential tax increase.
Mr. Brogy, real quick, under manager's report, I had budget guidance really to just remind everybody the timelines we're on, and then propose a schedule with the information that council's asked of me and the timelines we're crunching, that we should have everything ready by next week with some of the public works numbers to break those down and some of the questions we've asked the state regarding certain revenues. So I'll go back over that under manager's report.
Okay.
And then, so we're looking at the 7th, 7 o'clock on the 13th, and the public safety building, unless there's a scheduling conflict, and then we'll make notification in the advertisement where it's going to be. The next regular scheduled meeting of Township Council is March 20th, this building, 7:30. I did have a discussion with the BCIT principal today about a school-to-work program with some of their students that may or may not be available to help with administrative tasks in the township as it relates to website, IT type work.
Can we add, Mr. Schultz, are we able to, one of the things I'd like to see is maybe if there's film students or somebody, I would love to be able to, give the public video access to these meetings if perhaps there's some high school students that would want to get involved in that.
We did also have
a YouTube or something that won't cost us anything.
We had a resident that does it professionally, send an email, and it's just one of those low-hanging items. I haven't gotten with the manager yet.
For whatever it's worth.
He was willing to do it professionally.
My preference would be to have
At no cost.
No, I know, but I mean, I still think it would be an opportunity for
Well, and
high school students.
That's fine. Understand. Okay. Minutes. I don't think we have any.
No minutes.
No minutes. All right, so let's do the Earth Hour proclamation, and then we'll open it to public comment. Do we have any representatives from the Girl Scouts? Outstanding. If you could come forward, please. Yeah, we're going to go down. Turn around so everybody can see. Do you have something you would like to read?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to let you go first, and then I'm going to read the proclamation. So please.
Hi, my name is Shara Lily, and this is Tian, Miranda, Jessica, and Jennifer. And we'd like to thank you for helping us to promote Earth Hour, the World Wildlife Fund climate change campaign, where non-essential lights go out for 1 hour as a call for action on the issue.
This is our 4th year the council has supported us, but this year is extra special because next week is the 100th anniversary of Girl Scouts. And to celebrate, Girl Scouts across the nation are promoting Earth Hour as their 100th anniversary environmental project.
We're proud of the town to understand that global warming means more than severe droughts, costly floods, and environmental damage. Last year, metrics with over 5,000 cities in 135 countries participated in Earth Hour.
To signal concern for global warming, lights went out at the Eiffel Tower, Buckingham Palace, the Acropolis in Greece, the Colosseum in Rome, Olympic Stadium in Beijing, and throughout the United States, from the Empire State Building to the Vegas Strip.
We urge everyone to turn off their lights for Earth Hour on March 31st from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. And to learn more, go to earthhour.org. On behalf of the Girl Scouts and all animals that don't have a voice, thank you for helping to raise awareness of this issue. And we thank you for your time tonight. We'd like to pass a plate of our thanks love.
Thank you so very much. Don't run off, ladies. And you're right, Medford Township has been supporting this effort in the Girl Scouts for a number of years. At this time, I'd like to read a proclamation on behalf of all the council members. Whereas the Township of Medford has a proud history of resource conservation and environmental protection, and whereas our community is deeply concerned about the impacts of climate change and the future health, health and well-being of our planet, and believes energy efficiency, natural resource conservation, and public demand for action by world leaders are important elements to combating climate change. Whereas Earth Hour is both an international and local symbolic event organized by the World Wildlife Fund to raise awareness about climate change issues, and whereas Earth Hour asks all citizens, business, government agencies, and commercial and non-commercial establishments to turn off all non-essential lighting for 1 hour, beginning at 8:30 p.m. on March 31st, 2012. And whereas extinguishing non-essential lights in all township government buildings and public landmarks for 1 hour, and urging all building owners and residents to do the same, will send a clear message that people of the Township of Medford in the state of New Jersey. IT type work.
Can we add, Mr. Schultz, are we able to, one of the things I'd like to see is maybe if there's film students or somebody, I would love to be able to, give the public video access to these meetings if perhaps there's some high school students that would want to get involved in that.
We did also have
a YouTube or something that won't cost us anything.
We had a resident that does it professionally, send an email, and it's just one of those low-hanging items. I haven't gotten with the manager yet.
And for whatever it's worth,
he was willing to do it professionally.
My preference would be to have
at no cost.
No, I know, but I mean, I still think it would be an opportunity for
and
high school students.
Understand. Okay. Minutes. I don't think we have any.
No minutes.
No minutes. All right. So let's do the Earth Hour proclamation, and then we'll open it to public comment. Do we have any representatives from the Girl Scouts? Outstanding. If you could come forward, please. Yeah, we're going to go down. Turn around so everybody can see. Do you have something you would like to read?
Yes, please.
Okay, well, I tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to let you go first, and then I'm going to read the proclamation. So please.
Hi, my name is Shara Amelia, and this is Ann, Miranda, Jessica, and Jennifer. And we'd like to thank you for helping us to promote Earth Hour, the World Wildlife Fund climate change campaign, where non-essential lights go out for 1 hour as a call for action on the issue.
This is our 4th year the council has supported us. This year is extra special because next week is the 100th anniversary of Girl Scouts. And to celebrate, Girl Scouts across the nation are promoting Earth Hour as our 100th anniversary environmental project.
We're proud of how to understand that global warming means more than severe droughts, tropical floods, and environmental damage. Last year, metrics of over 5,000 cities from 135 countries participated in Earth Hour.
To signal concern for global warming, lights went out at the Eiffel Tower, Buckingham Palace, the Acropolis in Greece, the Colosseum in Rome, Olympic Stadium in Beijing, and throughout the United States, from the Empire State Building to the Vegas Strip.
We urge everyone to turn off their lights for Earth Hour on March 31st from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. And to learn more, go to earthhour.org. On behalf of the Girl Scouts and all animals that don't have a voice, thank you for helping to raise awareness of this issue. And we thank you for your time tonight. We'd like to pass a plate of our thanks love.
Thank you so very much. Don't run off, ladies. And you're right, Medford Township has been supporting this effort in the Girl Scouts for a number of years. At this time, I'd like to read a proclamation on behalf of all the council members. Whereas the Township of Medford has a proud history of resource conservation and environmental protection, and whereas our community is deeply concerned about the impacts of climate change and the future health, health and well-being of our planet, and believes energy efficiency, natural resource conservation, and public demand for action by world leaders are important elements to combating climate change. Whereas Earth Hour is both an international and local symbolic event organized by the World Wildlife Fund to raise awareness about climate change issues, and whereas Earth Hour asks all citizens, business, government agencies, and commercial and non-commercial establishments to turn off all non-essential lighting for 1 hour, beginning at 8:30 p.m. on March 31st, 2012. And whereas extinguishing non-essential lights in all township government buildings and public landmarks for 1 hour, and urging all building owners and residents to do the same will send a clear message that people of the Township of Medford in the state of New Jersey are concerned about climate change and stand with citizens worldwide in urging world leaders to immediately take measures to fight climate change. Now therefore be it resolved that the Medford Township Council advises Township employees to turn off all non-essential lighting at Township government buildings and public landmarks, and encourages building owners and residents to similarly turn off all non-essential lighting for the hours between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. on March 31st, 2012, to raise awareness about global climate change. Presented March 6, 2012 by the Medford Township Council. Ladies, thank you so much for attending this evening. And on behalf of the council, that's for you. Thank you for coming, ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. I need those cookies like I need a hole in my head. I think I'm up to about 12 boxes a year now. Okay. Consent agenda resolution. No, public comments. Before we open up to public comments, I'm sure that most of you have heard the press reports, seen it on television, read it in the newspaper. The Medford Township School District Superintendent was involved in an incident a week ago Sunday. The school superintendent doesn't work for Medford Township, the municipality. If you have comments that you want to make as it relates to that incident, I would encourage you to attend the Medford Township School District Board meeting and address those concerns to the Medford Township School Board. The superintendent works for the school board, doesn't work directly for this governing body. There's very little that we can do. I have spoken to the president of the school board at length about the incident, and unless you have a specific question as it relates to the governing body, again, I would encourage you to address that incident with the Medford Township School Board. Any comments from council?
No, just the next meeting is next Monday, the 12th.
The 12th of
Board of
March
Education meeting is next Monday, the 12th.
at Memorial School, correct? Or is it at
It's in the LGI.
Is it the LGI or is it, because it's a working meeting, I think?
if it's a working meeting, it'll be
I think
at
it's at
Route
the-
70.
I think it's at Route 70
offices.
That was really...
Okay. So limit your comments to 5 minutes apiece, please, and state your name and address for the record. George.
George Junkin, 13th Region Court. Mr. Mayor, when we had a budget workshop last week, you weren't here, but the room was packed. The hallway was packed. The parking lot was packed. Walking across the street through that lagoon is very treacherous in the dark. Have you, council, given consideration to having the meeting at a different venue other than this? When we have a topic as important as this and as interesting as that, and it draws a large crowd, this room really doesn't do that justice. I mean, Medford Lease has a big room, BCIT has a big room. I mean, I know you have to pay high school janitors when you keep a school open, but Medford Lease has a very large room, and I'm sure that the seniors over there would appreciate having a meeting that they could walk to. This room just doesn't hold that kind of crowd. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. And as a matter of fact, I did speak, as I stated earlier, to the principal at BCIT, and they have a great facility over there, and he assured me that he's willing to work with the Township of Medford for access to those facilities for that specific purpose. But you're right, it's important that everybody has a safe, comfortable place to attend those meetings, and I don't want to walk through that swamp either. Next person, please. Nobody else? Yes, sir.
Hi. This is my first town council meeting. I've been here since 1997. My name is Bill.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Bill Tansky. I live on 14 Schoolhouse Drive here in Medford. I started a petition about a week ago to protest the elimination of garbage pickup, and we went from about 7 people signing it to about 970 as of today. The petition has comments that I forwarded to a number of you, not all of you, and there's just a lot of dissatisfaction about that. Many people feel they are paying more and getting less, and that needs to be addressed. And I'm here to put a face behind that petition. And thank you for your time, but I hope this gets better. I'm a retiree. I'll be a volunteer. If I can help, you can count on me.
Mr. Tansky, thank you very much, and I appreciate the time that you spent on the phone with myself, and I know that some of the other council members have responded to the emails, and you've spoken with the manager. And you're right, volunteerism is probably one of the things that Medford right now simply needs more than anything. The more people and the more eyes we put on it, the better off we're all going to be. But in regards to the petition, I read every single comment that is forwarded to me, and it's not falling on deaf ears, I assure you.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Tansky,
yeah.
I mean, I know you'd mentioned that you have now access to send information back to that group, so we obviously, and one of the things that we've talked about at the last budget workshop is trying to put together some sort of a video presentation or something that could be forwarded. You know, a lot of people can't make it out here to our meetings, but if we could do something fairly succinct that would allow us to, you know, just show everybody, because the one thing we want to know, I mean, I think we pretty much determined at the last meeting, there's going to be some sort of referendum to allow the residents of Medford to decide whether you want your government picking up your trash or whether you want to contract your own trash. And what the most important thing to me is that people go into that voting booth knowing exactly what they're voting for. The more information we can get out, the better. It would be great if we could send information to you and you could send that back to petitioners.
And if I could just add one thing, I think people sense that the referendum is going to give them 2 choices. One is more taxes and keep your garbage picked up. No taxes, no tax increase, but you got to pay for it yourself. So I think I guess their optimum solution for them would be to keep the garbage pickup and don't raise taxes. I think people are upset that they took away the bulk pickup, took away Christmas trees, and now you're taking away the garbage. So what are we paying our taxes for?
Councilman Blumey, if I may. Mr. Tansky, I understand that the people of Bedford are upset, and having stood in this room for the past 3 years, and sometimes quite animated, trying to convince the governing body to stop spending taxpayer money, I find myself now on this side of the bench. I assure you, sir, that the amount of money we pay in taxes does not cover the expenses that the municipality has. The lion's share of what we pay in taxes go to the school districts. We get the smallest share. So the idea that we pay so much in taxes, we should get everything we want is a misnomer. You do not pay for all the services that you've enjoyed in Medford for the past decade. The expenses have far exceeded the revenue, and we have simply used one-time revenue sources, accounting gimmicks, to hide that from the public. We're no longer hiding that from the public, and right now we're at the point where we do have two choices. We either increase revenue by the way of a tax increase, or we eliminate, and not just trash. It's not just a matter of trash. The information about the preliminary budget's available online, and anybody that takes the time to go through those numbers understands that this is not a trash issue. This is a revenue issue. This is a shortfall. This is a $5.7 million shortfall in paying our bills. So the trash is just one of several items. So again, the petition certainly raises that level of awareness, and people can grab onto that, not unlike the Medford Crossings issue, not unlike the water rate increase. Everybody has something they're concerned about, but this governing body has to manage the entire budget for the entire township, not just one portion of it.
So what message should I tell them?
The referendum is going to be presented, and it's up to them to make a determination whether they want to raise their taxes or not. That's essentially what the referendum does. And it doesn't give us a line item by line item menu that the public's able to pick and choose.
Yeah, I think that's what I hear a lot about that.
If we got past that,
Well, we can't do it.
The state law.
We're not allowed.
The statute for the referendum is
very specific.
Very generic. It can't say, if you don't approve this tax levy, you're not going to get this.
I just want to make one more thing. I think I've exceeded my 5 minutes. I think the expectation, but they don't take this personal. When they elected Medford first, I guess they didn't expect this. I guess the expectations were that we keep our taxes where they are, keep our services where they are, it'd be fine. So I guess the expectation level was pretty high, and now they're disappointed, and now they're frustrated. And that's it.
In all fairness, we were pretty careful about that, because we got that question a lot.
Right.
Are you guys going to you're going to cut taxes, right? And the answer is no, we're probably going to raise them.
Yeah.
Because we're in that bad of a situation. And we walked into this situation eyes wide open. What we promised is what I think we're delivering, which is total transparency. If you observe the governing body, you're seeing that we are going through and the manager could probably vouch for this, and Kathy, I'm sure it's frustrating. We go through every single bill that we pay and say, why are we paying this? How much is it? And it's ad nauseum at this point, but we are trying to squeeze every little bit we can out of our budget on the one hand, but on the other hand, trying to set up something that delivers back to the public something they can trust and believe in. And that I'm very confident that we're satisfying every commitment we made, because we're careful what we committed to, and that's the best we can do. I wish I could create a scenario where $2 million appears, but it's just not there.
We could certainly borrow money, but that simply makes the problem worse, and quite frankly, that's what they've done for years. We can't borrow our way out of it. We can't wish our way out of it. We can't hope our way out of it. This is the end of the road. I believe me, I understand exactly what you're saying. Again, 3 years in this room, I've watched this day come, and I've been screaming bloody murder. I wrote hundreds and hundreds of editorials in the newspaper. Not all were published. Here we are. This is the end of the road. We're not gonna kick it down the road anymore. We are gonna fix this problem, and we're not gonna fix it by telling the public what it wants to hear. We're going to tell the public the facts. The reality of the situation is we're here.
Well, if I can help you communicate and help in some way, let me know. I sense a lot of not happy people. So if I can help, let me know. I'm retiring. I have the time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a little high for me. Try to reach it.
It'll take it up, don't worry.
Okay. My name is Wendy McBair. I'm president of the Headwater Village Civic Association. I think we are all concerned about the brush, leaf, and all the other services we've had in the past. It's a serious issue. I know you know it's a serious issue, but it needs to be said. We're afraid that it's going to hurt our aesthetics, our sanitation, our home values, our home sales, our reputation, and something needs to happen here. We are gathering together all the leaders of all the associations in Medford to have a meeting, and we are all trying to get creative. We're all trying to think of a way out of this, and we will be meeting as a group, so we wanted to let you know that that is in process. You are our new leaders. You told us you were going to be here for us, and you told us you were going to do something to make a difference, and we're not seeing that. And we're not impressed right now with what feels like stonewalling. I'm not hearing creative leaders' ideas out of this group except to raise our taxes, and we already pay quite a bit of money, as we know. We're willing to pay a little more, but not so that monies can go to all the other areas that would then get money if you raise taxes in general. You know, what we're looking for is some way to pay for those services without us all having to run around like, you know, scared human beings trying to figure out how to not have trash all over our streets and leaves all over, and to figure out how to do this in a good, conscientious, and efficient way. And we are looking to our leaders for that. We've been reaching out to other towns. I think Tom wants to talk about that, to try and get some new and creative ideas. But I'd like to see some ideas from you guys as well, not from just the people. So, you know, I do have a question, and that is, if we were to have some of our services come back, and just a list of what those would be, you know, how much would that cost if it was just for those services? You know, and then again, what would that mean if we got those services back? What's that going to mean in taxes for us all if you do a tax increase, which is not what I think needs to happen? So that's pretty much what I want to say. I'm disappointed that I have to be here, and I'm disappointed that I have to say things like that. I was really excited about a new group coming in. I know it's hard, I know it's a tough place to be in, but I really think that creative thinking here needs to happen. And I thank Chris for bringing the group together that he did already. That was really awesome and helpful to all of us to know that there were a lot of associations and a lot of other people concerned as well.
Wendy, thank you very much for your comments. I have to tell you, the idea that any municipal tax increase that you might see as a result of a referendum, the idea that it goes to somewhere else it doesn't. It's a municipal tax. It would be money that the municipality uses. It doesn't go to the state. It doesn't go to the county. It's a municipal tax.
Doesn't go to school. No,
it doesn't go to the schools. And Wendy, I have to tell you, there are a lot of people in Medford that are just hearing it for the first time, and they're hearing it from somebody that is just angry and upset, and they're not getting all the facts and all the information. Everybody up here on this governing body, aside from myself, has a full-time job, and these guys are dedicating 20 and 30 hours a week to this issue. I have a great idea, okay? Raise your taxes or pay for it, hire a private vendor and pay for it yourself. That's my idea. And the only reason that's my idea is there's a finite resource. $9.3 million is generated by a tax levy in Medford. $8 million goes to pay for fire, police, and EMS. We have roughly $3.8 million that goes out the door to debt service. So we're behind. We can't pay a light bill. We can't pay any other township employees, let alone collect trash. So the idea that we're simply attacking or eliminating trash is a misnomer. The results of a defeated referendum to maintain these services means that Medford Township cannot pay its bills, okay? That's a reality. Those are the facts. If anybody is unclear about what that actually means, by all means, take a moment and sit down with one of the council members or the manager, and we'll be more than happy to lay it out for you. This is a significant and serious problem. It goes beyond aesthetics. Yes, ma'am.
I think it's too tall for me, too.
I'm sorry?
I think I'm too short for that as well.
My name's Betty Grimmett. I live in East Centennial Drive, and this is my first time at a council meeting. So I just wanted to start by thanking you guys for giving your time, and I'm appreciative of the volunteer nature of what you do. And I don't think anybody underestimates the complexity of this problem. Certainly anybody that's even done a little bit of reading does not underestimate the complexity of the problem. Mr. Schultz attended our annual meeting. It was very informative. I found him to be very open, and I did start to get that sense of transparency. I think the thing that, and I'm going to refer to my notes because I tried to collect a little bit of information that I'm sure pales to comparison to your research and information. But as a citizen, I'm just puzzled by one seemingly glaring lack of transparency, and that is, wherein does the fiduciary responsibility lie that got us here in the first place? It's the second time in less than a month I've heard the term accounting gimmicks. Well, I mean, in the real world, people that participate in accounting gimmicks have to be accountable for those and have to be accountable for the consequences of those accounting gimmicks. So I agree with Wendy. I'm happy to do whatever we need to do. I'm happy to pay a little more if I know what it's being spent for. And I know that that seems to be the current urgent problem. That's the problem we have to deal with at this particular moment in time. That's all good. But when it's all said and done, when do we look back and say that my home, my retirement money, the value of my property and other things are deteriorating rapidly, not because of people on Wall Street, but because some people, and I don't claim to have any idea who those people might be, but some people that ran this government, this local government, ran it either illegally, and if not illegally, certainly unethically. And when do the citizens get to look at that scenario and at least have some transparency with regard? Everything that I read only makes mention of the problems that we have, not how we got to those problems. And I don't want to belabor the point, but if I could just, and then I'll finish, and because I know a lot of people have things to say. If 71 cents on the dollar goes to the schools in this township, then don't we need to talk to those people and about how much of that budget is being used inappropriately? If the New Jersey Water Company wants to raise our rates by 20%, should they not also participate in the belt tightening?
Betty, the New Jersey American Water doesn't raise Medford rates the same way it raises other towns' rates. We have a completely separate agreement, and you're right, there are things that should be done, but again, they don't charge us for the water that we send to the public.
And I don't know the specifics of that. I understand that. But and just one other thing, the 8th legislative district, Adiego, Reuter, and Brown, on their website today, announced that the that the Medford schools, the combination of Medford Lakes and Medford Township, are going to see an increase in school aid in excess of 17% this year.
$378,000.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, I say to myself, if the schools are getting $378,000, maybe instead of 71 cents on the dollar, can we give them 70 cents on the dollar? Is none of this negotiable? If not negotiable at a boardroom, at a table, in a gentlemanly and in a professional way, is it negotiable in a legal way?
No. If I were king...
you know what? I know who Rosa Parks is. Yeah. I don't bother now.
If I could address this? Well, hold on. If I could address this? Let's not forget, I sued them. I sued this township and the school board because of a conflict of interest that they had for their attorney. because my personal belief was that what happened a couple years ago when the voters said no to that school board referendum, okay, all was done, in my opinion, behind closed doors. They had an agreement, and they raised the taxes anyway. And you had the attorney for the school board and the township both working at the same firm, and there was an absolute conflict of interest. And I sued them, and frankly, it got to a point where, okay, I got to move forward with an attorney here, and it would have been a lot of money. So we held them accountable in a different way, and that is, in 2 years' time, we had 3 resignations, 3 people decided not to run again, 1 person removed from office. That's 7 out of 5. Okay? The reason that this body got turned upside down is because we chased them out of here. And the things that you've read about and that you've heard about, the illegal contracts, the things that just absolutely... Look, I know a lot of people tell me I seem pretty angry up here. I am angry. I'm still angry at what was done to Medford Township. Okay?
I think we all are.
We are addressing the issue. Just because contracts have been paid doesn't mean that we can't go back and take a look at them. We have a committee right now that is with the primary intention of making recommendations for financial controls because the auditor identified that we did not have financial controls. Okay, we are going to look back at how every one of these contracts was awarded. We are looking very closely at it. I have my own views about it. Certain contracts, I think...
And how will the citizenry be notified about that? How will we know?
Everything will be made... Let me give you an example as far as transparency goes. One of the things that happened, if everyone remembers the budget meetings we had a couple years ago, we got a lot... Basically, it was a PR campaign. We had a couple meetings, which, frankly, Randy and I disrupted by bringing out the truth, that, where they essentially tried to sell everybody on why we need to raise the taxes at the time 27%. And there, even then, there was not the kind of cuts that we're looking at already making here today. I mean, we've gone from what they spent last year, 21 million, down to 18. Right. And we're still underwater. And the thing is, what we've done to try to give everybody the facts, I mean, if you go on a township website, we've got our budget workbook, the same thing I'm using. There's nothing hidden there. You can see...
No, I'm not. I understand that. I understand we're moving forward in that regard.
Well, I only want to address that because in the past, I mean, this man filed thousands of OPA requests to try to get information that should have been made available to the public. Now, our goal is to put that information out to the public so you have it. In terms of innovative ideas, we've got a few. Some of them we can air publicly right now. Some of them we have to look through the possibilities. A lot of things you can't necessarily bring out in the open because there's negotiating behind it. But I will tell you...
I guess my question then to you, and I just want to leave time for other people. I guess my question to you is simple. My father was a town solicitor for a small town in New Jersey for many, many years. So I grew up in this environment a little bit, and I'm familiar with it and comfortable with it. Election night was like Super Bowl party at our house. But he worked very hard on behalf of unveiling and resolving what he perceived to be either unethical or illegal behavior on the part of anybody that had anything to do with the town. Right. And I'm just wondering whose role that is in our effort. So
if I could, Mr. Hartwig, would you?
No. Councilman Boney, Benny, you're absolutely right. The accounting gimmicks go beyond just the problems that Medford has.
They do. The
state of New Jersey allows a water company to charge us for water we don't need. And they wrote a state regulation that required it. Okay? So now we're paying for water we don't need.
We must have some legal redress to that.
They write the laws.
The laws are challenged in the courts all the time.
You're right, Betty. And Medford Township has spent more in legal fees challenging affordable housing regulations and other state-mandated
Well, maybe that's what we need some volunteer from our citizens.
Now we're talking. Betty, I need everybody in Medford to write Scott Rutter, Dawn Marie Adiego, and the freeholders, and tell them you're fed up. You've had enough. Right. Write them a letter and say, stop taking our money. Stop it. I encourage everybody to do that.
And I do that regularly on several issues. I appreciate my time. I don't want to...
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Those are issues that we do need to address. Yes. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Eric Daniel, 8 Crescent Drive in Headwater. I have to apologize to the guys I met tonight for the first time. I lied. I said I wasn't going to say anything. I'm a lawyer, land use, municipal planning, tax work, 35 years. I'm also a realtor with Keller Williams in town. I've never been to a township meeting before. I've always treated the township as my safe haven and a meeting to work behind. But because of publicity and the discussion and the petition and our neighbors, are here today, we've all started talking about it. So I actually sat down and studied the 94-page budget from last year. I've never seen a school board budget, so that's an expense item that I don't know anything about. But as far as our part, the township part, it looks to me like it's about as lean as it could possibly be.
Thank you.
And I have to say, it's unfair to take you all to task after 7 weeks. I think you're all doing a good job.
Thanks.
A year from now, maybe, well, hopefully we'll be applauding more. But the one point I did want to make was I don't think we have, again, forgetting the schools, I just don't know what that's all about. There could be tons of these, or maybe there is, maybe there isn't, I don't know. But within the township, and I've done work for a lot of townships, every township wants to keep it residential, pristine, lakes, trees. But the fact of the matter is, residential ratables are just not going to fund the expenses. It just isn't going to happen. You can't. What you need are commercial ratables. Now, everything I've read, and we've been here for 25 years now, every single article I've read or discussion I've had over the years with neighbors, friends, listeners, you name it, are always about fights against some particular commercial project. And we happen to have a very nice master plan. I've been involved in developing a number of it. We have an excellent and with our light industrial commercial corridor. But every time somebody wants to do something, we fight it. So we're left with just a residential community with residential tax, which cannot support the expenses. My question is what are we doing? What's your plan, or what should our plan be for developing commercial ratables? That's what we need. We have to increase the revenue. Now, the only alternative I can say, not that I'm the expert, but is to increase taxes. You have to get the money from someplace, but we can get it from commercial if you have a plan for bringing, commerce into the township. But every time a developer comes in, they're treated like devil, and some aren't devil.
One in particular.
But we don't encourage. I mean, we have a beautiful plan, and then we fight it. My question is, have you all given, I'm sure you've given some thought, but I would suggest developing commercial ratables, commercial properties, businesses, that should be a priority. I mean, you're going to have to raise the taxes. And
Mr. Daniel,
that's my point. That's all I have to say.
I really appreciate your comments, and this governing body does have a specific plan as it relates to commercial ratables. Medford Township is open for business, and it has been a practice in the past for the governing body, the planning board, to limit or restrict development in Medford. People want Medford to remain Medford. I can certainly appreciate that, but like you said, the reality of the situation is tax ratables are a necessity, and if you don't bring in business, you don't have those tax ratables, so it falls to the residents.
If you want to see Medford, you're We're going to have to pay for it.
One of the biggest difficulties Medford faces right now is sewer capacity. We have businesses that have approached Medford Township and actually right now are prepared to apply and to build in Medford. The biggest stumbling block we have right now is sewer capacity. We have none. We have no available sewer capacity to sell to businesses that are seeking to do business in Medford.
And there are some
It's very limited. Yes, there is one particular developer that owns a majority of that capacity.
That's a very important issue, and he's been holding on to that for how many years?
And
You raise a good point about the sewer capacity. The problem is that a particular project has an affordable housing component, and the ordinance is basically allocates that sewer capacity to that project to provide essentially the incentive to build that affordable housing. It's tied to it. Town cannot take it back.
And we continue to work those issues. We are continuing to work those issues. Long range, there's a lot that can be done, and there's a lot that is started, but unfortunately, it's going to take more time than we have. We have an immediate need, we have a mid-range, and we have a long range. The mid and long range are looking great. They really are, because you have a whole new set of eyes on this with a whole different perspective. There were people that wanted to stay in office, move up in office. And the only way they could do that is make the people making the most noise happy. And in Medford Township, the people that made the most noise are the people that wanted Medford Township to stay, their perception of Medford Township. We hired a planner years ago as a result of a drugstore that got built in the township. And his sole mission was to ensure nothing else got built in Medford. That was his job. He told me point blank, this is why I was hired, this is why I came here. Those days are over.
You can't have it both ways. We can have pristine...
Absolutely, we can.
Or we can have, I hate to use the stores that everybody hates. We get the Walmarts, but that's a choice that has to be made.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think that there's any other answer to it. But we never read or hear about what I'm going to sit down and do. Actually, you took up half of my time.
Yes, sir, I did. I'm trying to get that word out.
We never read about what we're doing about encouraging commercial development. We read about what we're doing to get rid of it, like the drugstore, hiring a planner. But people have to understand it's a balance.
I think we're taking a big step tonight. Yeah, I think we're going to take a big step tonight that you'll see. Is one of the things we have on the table right now is we're going to substantially impact the cost of starting a new business in Medford and send a very clear signal to businesses. And I've had personal conversations with people asking if they've considered the franchise out in New Jersey. I think we have an excellent highway commercial development area on Route 70 right there. I've spoken to local builders and developers. I've talked to business leaders in the area that I know and said, listen, this council is going to be very friendly toward creating incentives for commercial growth and development in Medford. It is about time that and I think it's possible to. We have a great town, and I think it's possible to maintain the character of our town and have businesses that support our lifestyle. I see no reason why we should leave town every time we want to go out, or even when we want to go to work. What's the downside of having some place nearby where we could drive to work? There's a lot of people who go a far distance, and I think there could be real incentives to place that here in town.
I just want to see if you all have the strength as time goes on. Not to ignore, but to listen and not give so much credence or weight to vocal minorities. Like this trash issue, for example, is not a minority issue. This is a majority issue, which I don't want to talk about. But that is something that you should really listen to, because that's the That's a majority speaking. But you get a small minority that not in my backyard group who comes in, and unfortunately the people who are not directly affected by something stay home. But it takes guts to ignore that vocal minority, and I wish you luck. But so far, so good, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dan. Mr. Panarella, please.
Mike Panarella, 49 Georgia Trail, Medford, New Jersey. The first thing I would like to urge you to do is please keep the 5-minute rule intact. Please. You are the ones who say it's here. You yourselves, I don't want to say abused it, but went over, and it's getting to be to the point where anyone can speak as long as they want. You're just paying lip service to the 5 minutes. So, please.
Mr. Panarella, before you go on, let's make something perfectly clear. When council interrupts somebody, that's taking away from their 5 minutes. We will stick to the 5-minute rule the best that we can. If this governing body determines what is being said is relevant, we'll exceed that 5 minutes. We have that prerogative, and we will exceed that 5 minutes if we're conducting the township's business.
That's your prerogative. If I can echo earlier, you need to put a face with the name. You're going to have to tell where we've overspent, because somewhere along the line we went from a solvent town to in the debt. And you won't get the sympathy or the backing that you need to get things done until you put a face with a name. Now, I know more than most people here, we ran twice against this establishment. I could put the face with the name, but I think you need to do that. We saw what happened, and I urge you to do that for your own stability. And I'm not going to go any innuendos or assertions here. You need to do that.
I'll name them. You want the list now? I'll be happy to tell you exactly.
No, I don't really. I'm not that kind. I don't want to go verbatim. I was here when we had to pay, I don't know how much township money, when Vice President Cheney had to come here. And as a registered Democrat who ran as a Democrat, I had to have my money paid for Vice President Cheney to speak at Lenape High School. Things like that went unchecked. Those are the things that needed to be addressed. The last time I was up here, I asked 5 questions and deferred to Mr. Bloom. How much money was collected for the sewer permits that you yourself objected to and called an illegal tax, hidden tax? What is that money being used for? Is any of that money being used for a purpose other than improving the water quality or the sewer system? Will that rate be lowered? And then will there be a rebate for people like myself who was assessed that sewer tax? I asked those 5 questions the last time I was up. I didn't shoot an email. You were deferred to, Mr. Buoni. Will you answer those questions at this time?
We actually answered them at the last budget meeting.
I wasn't.
And I'll be happy. That's okay.
Question number 1: how much money was collected?
I'll put the audio on. I'll put the audio up as well. What we have right now is, first of all, it wasn't a tax. There was an increase in the water and sewer rate. Initially, it was going to be 100%. If anyone was at the meeting, you remember, they came out with a rate. I think it was 109, and they came out at 212. And Randy and I got up and were like, "Whoa, what's this? Why are we raising the water 100%? We did our cost double." It ended up going up 40%. In my opinion, it was a hidden tax. What we have right now is approximately $987,000 surplus. Is that the right number?
$954, but
$954,000 surplus in there. So that's the additional money that we have now.
That's question number 1.
Yeah, technically, we have to have some sort of surplus in there in case of an emergency. So we don't know. We don't have that analysis back yet, or do we? Or are we? Where are we with that?
We're going to be going through that analysis.
Okay.
You're going to meet with a utility expert.
Right.
We've agreed on that, and then we're going to do a rate analysis.
As of right now,
understand. Before you continue, Mr. Borney, I want to make a point here. Betty, you talked about where the money went, how it goes. The water rate increase affected 60% of Medford Township residents. Okay? So 60% of the township potentially potentially by state regulation, can foot the bill for 100%. The state allows this governing body to take that money and apply it to the general fund to pay our bills in a crisis, in an emergency. Okay? That is the type of state law and regulation that is driven not only Medford Township, but other townships in the state, the county, and the state itself into a position where their debts have skyrocketed and their annual deficits continue to grow. We have to stop legislating that type of malfeasance. And that's exactly what it is. It's malfeasance. Go ahead, Ms. Caboni. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I lost.
What question we on?
Next question, Mr. Panarella.
You got how much, what is it being used for?
Right now, nothing.
Is there any money of that being used for a purpose other than improving water and sewer quality?
No, not right now.
Will the rate be lowered?
Yes.
Will there be a rebate to those who unfairly paid that?
I want to answer this.
Please.
Here's a conundrum. And let me tell you what I said at the budget meeting, because I don't have anything to hide. Plain and simple, I see $975,000 sitting there, and we're at the verge of financial insolvency. Yes, I said it, insolvency. And I see $975,000 there, and my response is, that's pretty tempting. Now, personally, that is one of the primary reasons why, and I have two views on this referendum. As a citizen, I would much rather pay a private hauler to take away my trash. I'll use Chemung as an example. Mr. Norman lives in Chemung.
I wouldn't they pay a higher rate than most?
They pay $78, but if you have a couch that you need to take away, what happens?
You pick up the phone, they pick up the couch.
Any additional charge for that?
No.
A private hauler doesn't do a job I like, I can get a new one. And frankly, I have always been a believer in the competitive marketplace. I find it a little ironic in some respects. Hold on, I'm going to just hit that. But okay, I won't go off that track. Thank you. But as a councilman, part of me, I would prefer to see the referendum pass, because one of the things that will be covered in that referendum, it is for trash is the primary thing, and really it's the only service that we look to add back. But one area that I want to personally include is restoring that money that was taken from water and sewer people. I think it's wrong that 60% of the people paid the bill for 100%. I want, and I know other members of this council, Mr. Checkguy vocalized the same thing, and we all believe, I'm sure, that we want to give 100% of that money back. But put yourself in a position where you have to choose to either, it's funny because when, I was thinking about that Earth Hour, if turn off the lights for an hour, I'm just thinking, well, I hope we can turn them back on. I mean, that's where we are. And the fact is, if that money is sitting there, the only reason that we would spend any of that money towards the general fund would literally be to cover a shortfall where if we didn't spend that money, we could not pay our bills.
But do you understand the unethical part of using that as a campaign issue to sway people to vote for you, right, and then acting not in consistency with what you accuse the other people of doing?
Well, I do, which is why I vocalize it. I think I vocalize that, and I agree with you. Now, I never collected that rate and brought it to the public as if somehow the water expenses went up. I protested at the time, and I'm telling you that rate will go down. We don't know how much to adjust it yet because we're not sure what that amount is. But there are a lot of special interests around here that want us to use that money to put towards their kitty. That's not going to happen.
There is no plan to use that money for anything other than what it was intended. And it is, in a perfect world, it will go back to the ratepayers. We still need to generate a surplus so that we can maintain and service the water and sewer plants. We have to be able to do that.
Okay? I want to sit down. Okay, really, I really do.
I understand, Mr. Panarella, but we have to be clear here. Okay?
You said you're going to return that money.
If you want to build a case against me, that's fine. I've been pretty vocal about it. Look, all I can do is tell you everything that's on my mind and be as open and honest about things as I can be. If that is something that, if you feel like I'm breaking the campaign promise, that's fine.
I'm asking you, that if you sway a person to vote for you... The rate increase was excessive. If you sway a person to vote for you and slander people who you ran against, which I didn't say I was for or against, and now all of a sudden you continue the process, I'm asking you, does that not sound unethical?
Yeah, sure it does, but we haven't done that. So that's not really, what you're saying is inaccurate.
Yeah. Let's hold on.
Sure. Nobody spent any of that money.
Let's hold on a minute. That money hasn't gone anywhere yet.
I understand.
Okay. I mean, it's there. We don't know if we may need it all for the surplus. We don't know yet.
The other thing is what Mr. Norman said, that Medford is not Indian Mills, is that where you live? And basically, I know a town that independent contracted.
Sure.
And basically, for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you had independent contractors going back and forth across the roads. It was extremely unsafe. Plus, you had many questionable characters having all kinds of access to the town. Right. So basically, I don't like the comparison of Medford to Chemung, because I don't think it's apples and oranges.
I don't like the comparison of Medford to any other township, quite frankly, Mr. Panorama. Medford Township is Medford Township. We'll take the best from every township.
And I'd like to add, hold on a second, that's why we're giving your opinion and my opinion as a resident. I prefer to pay for it myself. You wouldn't. The community's going to decide. To me, isn't that the best way to approach it? It's a community decision. You know, we could make that decision. We have that authority, but I personally don't think that would be the right way to approach it. I think something this fundamental needs to be left over to Medford as a whole to decide its future. I think that's reasonable and fair.
Mr. Clancy.
Chaz Clancy, 16 Tyrell. I have a question with regard to earlier you said the only way to fix the issue was to either raise the taxes or, with the referendum, or something else along those lines. You offered no other choice. And I actually came myself to Chris, and I talked to you with a couple of different ideas that we actually could help out with our issue we have right now. Has anyone acted on any of those ideas that I brought forth?
Mr. Clancy, the ideas that you and I discussed are not going to fix this year's budget deficit.
The solar project would.
Once again, the issues that we discussed will not fix this year's budget deficit. Once we get this year's taken care of, all our focus shifts to the mid-range, and the recommendations and suggestions that you discussed with me are mid-range solutions. They don't fix the budget problem this year.
Okay. I had one other question. It's with your transparency. I couldn't find it. I believe they're called RFPs when you put out a budget. If I'm not mistaken, that's correct. When you're looking to a bid from someone professional to do work. I actually looked for Mr. Norman's RFP. I found that, but I didn't find any RFP for Mr. Norman's group that he joined, or his firm that he joined. So my question is, did anyone even look at them or ask them for any information?
The manager can speak to that.
Pardon me?
The manager can speak to that. He actually gave a very high recommendation for Colin and Heinhold, because he worked with them in Moorestown for years, and that was one of the key factors in that decision.
File an RFP, seems everyone else.
Well,
I'm the primary lead attorney township.
But you are.
I will be attending.
But the caveat was that you needed to join a firm in order to be that person.
And they're a very reputable firm. They represent worse.
But I didn't ask those guys if they sent an RFP. That's his firm. Once he joined them, I realized that he sent one for them.
Why would his firm send an RFP?
Because I would think you'd want to look into the background of his firm. You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it is you're asking. Did Raymond Coleman submit an RFP for the solicitor position? Is that what you're asking?
Oh, sure, because
at the time of the RFPs, I was not at that firm.
He was not at that firm.
The caveat with you getting the job was you needed to merge with someone, because you didn't actually qualify for all the Or I spent...
Oh, I'm sorry, that's an incorrect statement. That is an incorrect statement.
3 years as a sole practitioner, so I don't think that's...
It's an incorrect statement?
That's an incorrect statement.
There was no lie. That wasn't a necessary thing.
Oh, you didn't have to join the...
No.
You didn't put that as a caveat?
No.
I must be completely messed up. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Dominic Pacello, Bracken Road in Tamarack. First meeting. I guess the issue that I wanted to bring up, and it must be on other people's minds, is we have this referendum, and we're going to have to make a choice, and the choice is pay more taxes or pay the contract. We just went through an assessment, a reassessment. I, for one, got a massive, almost 60% tax increase. Not assessment, triple assessment. In Tamarack.
Okay, Tamarack.
I don't know if that's, I don't think it's normal, and I did do some additions on my home. However, the question is, do we not expect a large increase in tax revenue from the assessment?
No, it's revenue neutral.
It's revenue neutral.
Revenue neutral.
Yes, it reallocates the tax amongst the residents. So in other words, if you had people who bought a house in the last 5 years, they bought at the height of the market,
yeah,
they were paying tax at a much greater rate. Because
I understand. And I also think that's the minority, not the majority of people who bought the houses at the top of the market.
Well, that may
Almost
be.
everyone I spoke to had a pretty significant tax increase in my neighborhood. So I'm wondering why, if we're going to have a tax increase, which was promised by the governor and everybody else not to increase by a certain percentage, why do we need to do this?
The reevaluation is an adjustment, and the majority of the township went down. So what it is you have neighbors who are paying less than their fair share, you have neighbors paying more than their fair share, and you have neighbors paying their fair share. It is under New Jersey, everybody is supposed to be paying their fair share. The last time the township did it was 1987. The county ordered it. The governing body here did not just say do this. It was ordered by the County of Burlington through the tax administrator's office. It's just it's just a shifting of that burden to make sure everybody again levels off. Now, obviously, I know people got different things, and some of you are going to appeal that. There's a statutory process that does that, but it will impact the budget slightly, but it's not. They're two separate things in part. You know, our levy is derived through the overall assessment of the township. Right. So the assessed value went up from 1.7 billion to 3 billion since 1987.
And decreased.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
You're saying it's a revenue neutral. You're certain of that before the numbers come in, and that maybe it's not a good idea to put this referendum off until maybe we see if really it's not revenue neutral?
You can't put it off.
Yes, Mr. Manager, if I may. We're absolutely certain, because by law, it's revenue neutral. Medford Township cannot receive a tax increase as a result of this rebound. A third go up, a third the same, a third reduce. You happen to be one of the ones that went up.
And I do know that some went up, some went down.
Right.
But I also know that, I mean, we haven't been reassessed since 1987. I know that because I see my tax statement, and that's true. However, my taxes have gone up just about every year I've lived here for the past 15 years.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't understand what my term revenue...
The school's been raising your taxes.
And I know the school is the culprit for the majority.
Well, they raised it, the town has not.
The school has raised taxes and the town has not.
From 2006 through 2010, your local purpose tax did not increase.
Okay.
The schools increased. The county was probably fluctuating up and down. I know the county has made efforts to try to keep theirs down. The high school
It was a campaign slogan for the guys that we replaced. We've never raised your taxes.
Right.
Well, my taxes have gone up, like you said, every year. It wasn't the municipal governing body. It was the school districts. Prior to that, if it wasn't the school district, it was the governing body. Okay? Again, I'm not sure if you have a specific question about the tax rate as it relates to the referendum. Your concern is a lot of people are going to see an increase.
Yeah, I mean...
And you're concerned that the increase that we're going to add to it by referendum would be too much for them to bear. Is that my takeaway?
I think that's the concern of the 900-something people who signed the petition. And that I think that the definition revenue neutral is not what I would consider to be revenue neutral. Meaning that revenue neutral means that the entire town pays the same amount of tax, it's just like you said, reallocated. Yeah. I don't really believe that's going to be the case. I think you're going to see an increase in revenue.
I've been through 3 evaluations in my 15 years of manager. If that was the case, I would have never presented the budget I presented. It doesn't work the way that the only tax there, with one caveat, the open space tax will see a slight increase. That is the only tax that sees that because of the way the tax is structured. Everything else does not.
Small percentage.
Very small. It didn't even make my presentation because it's so small. When I divvy up $1, it's so small it wouldn't even come up on a graph. So.
And I'm with you. 3 years ago, I didn't trust my local government to tell me the straight answer either. Yeah. So I'm right there with you.
Real quick, residents who haven't looked at my budget workbook, I did an analysis back 10 years, both on the revenue side and the expense side. Take a look at it. It clearly tells a story of what happened in this town from 2001 to 2010. And right around 2005, 2006, you will see a major, if you look at it. And then I tried to pull out the school deferral, which was a gimmick that was used to represent that. So I encourage you to take a look at it. If you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Ms. Simons.
Thomas, my name is Ashley Court. I was really pleased to hear Mr. Panarelli discuss the water sewer issue with you. I still have a few questions. It seems like it's taking an inordinate amount of time to analyze the water sewer budget. I'm going to assume that it's the director of water and sewer who instituted the 40%?
No.
Whose job was it?
Again, we're pretty much being blunt, and I've taken off gloves that 5-10 years ago I wouldn't have. It was a decision of the governing body to raise the rate probably higher than, I'm not saying it didn't need to be raised, but my understanding is based on the information I have in the file that I've looked at. There was a decision made at the governing body level to pick a number, and that number turned out to be 40.
Does the governing body make every budget decision for each department?
The governing body sets the overall policy via the budget approval.
Who submits the budget for each department?
Well, the budget had submitted to me, and then I submit to governing body. But the rate increase is separate from that process. Why it's taking long is my focus has been the general fund budget. That's the budget that's so the utility budget's healthy in one sense. We pretty much ran right to the penny last year on what we needed operationally. The analysis will take some time. Council's agreed at my recommendation to consult with a utility an attorney who's a utility specialist, who would, if we bring him on board, to work with the engineer to go through an actual analysis. It does take some time.
But that means we're going to be paying additional monies for someone else to analyze?
Well, it's better, Mr. Manager, if I may, it's better for us to analyze that and base that rate that you pay on factual information rather than base that rate on a revenue that we need to generate to continue to hide the fact that we spend more money than we...
There's no cost in the consultation that I've asked them to consider. The problem is there are statutes that dictate that the town annually should be doing certain things with the utility. If we had sewer permits to provide, every municipality annually is supposed to, at the end of the year, do an analysis on the sewer rate, on the sewer permit fee, and then by ordinance. Most towns don't do that, and so I want to make sure going forward, if I'm going to make a recommendation to the governing body, Medford's going to do it the appropriate way, both on the permit side and the rate side. So all I've asked them to do is speak with the attorney. There's no cost in speaking to that attorney yet.
I was just curious because I know you mentioned that we pay a director for that position. You indicated that you may be transferring some of your salary portion to the water sewer because you're...
No, I'm not transferring. The towns, I manage the entire operation, and there are other employees in the town that deal with both budgets. So part of our salaries are charged off against those appropriate budgets. It's not just happening now. It's been happening in Medford, and it's nominal. And what I guess, and again, I'm sorry if I'm coming off frustrated. I'm so focused right now on straightening this budget out, which most people are upset about. I want to get, but the utility, we don't want the utility to get too far away. So my hope was, when we get to the manager report, get council set up on, here's the timeline I'd like to see for the general fund budget, and now, at the same time now, I'm asking the attorney to come in to meet with them at the next meeting in executive to consult with them.
I think it's critical, but I also wanted to be sure that the water sewer surplus isn't going to that budget.
No, the models we're running right now, and when I'm crunching all the numbers relative to any potential referendum, which council asked me at the budget meeting, does not include the utility money. It's not even part of that equation right now. So as we're running the actual legal formatted general fund budget, the deferral, remember last year your school board increased taxes, so we actually have about $500,000 in deferral available to us. We're running two models without the deferral and without the sewer utility. We're staying away from that at this point. No problem. Thanks, Ms. Simons.
Mr. Barbieri, please. I'll get back over here to the left in a minute.
Joe Barbieri, 11 Stonehenge Drive. I guess Mr. Panarello was a little snarky in telling you to limit everybody to 5 minutes. He ran about 8.5, almost 9 minutes. Just saying. I just want to say I appreciate the openness and transparency. It's great. Nixle, newspapers, you guys have been doing a great job. Not sure what other media is out there, but it's just, I think it's important hearing a lot of people for the first time coming to township council meetings. It's important to continue to get the message out. I've been coming for about 2 years, as you said, you've been here for 3 and more. There's a lot of topics that we thought we kind of covered and everybody understood, but it's clear that coming to the meetings for the first time, it's new to a lot of people. So my only question is, newspapers, Nixle, what else is out there that we can continue to get the message out to everybody?
As Councilman Bowie said, televising, giving people access from their living room. That's something we've talked about. We just, it doesn't happen overnight. Those things have to be put in place. And again, insofar as passing the word, I've said it in many council meetings, share the information with your neighbors, try and check the emotion when you do, and provide them with the facts. Take a little time, go to the clerk's office, get some information that you can share that's factual, get it in writing so that you can see it and provide it firsthand. The information that's available on the township website is a good place to start as well. Nobody wants to hear, people just want to get to the bottom line. They want to get the best information, and they want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, and that's essentially what this meeting's for when it's open to the public. It's not the sole purpose of this meeting, but it's certainly a step in the right direction.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. There was a woman back in the back that was waiting a little bit longer. I'll get back to you.
My name is Ruth Ruger. I'm the Clyde Parish Court for Weathersfield Development. I have a couple of questions. I went to the homeowner association meeting, and Mr. Schultz said that as of April 1st, you're supposed to end garbage pickup, which doesn't leave us much time to make alternative plans.
That was delayed. My budget was predicated on a first quarter cutoff. We didn't know the date of the referendum until the state issued out the notice a couple weeks ago. Once the notice was issued, I did come to the next council at the budget workshop and express that we should push it back to May 1st. That way, I didn't want residents to, if we had to go that route, to get into a service agreement with a private hauler for a couple weeks, then go to a referendum, vote for a referendum, and if the referendum succeeded, be caught kind of where we're not stopping the service and caught in a service contract. So we're trying to find a way to put $100,000 back into the budget to carry it through to May 1st, but right now that's the plan, is to push that back.
Okay, That being said, I contacted 8 different contractors. I only found one, Republic, that said that they were willing to do this. And it was $18 to $22 per month for garbage service, which I thought was reasonable.
Who else did, I spoke to Waste Management and Garden State, both came to my office. I'm surprised because they
I called both of them.
Really?
Both of them said they weren't in our area, that they could do dumpsters or something like that. So I
Okay.
you know, and I asked about trash containers and all. My concern is that having the service in place at the township, which it looks like it's not going to be able to do. And I also have to wonder, because I've been looking on the website, why our police officers are getting over $8,000 in increases that we can't pay to.
It was contractually agreed to.
Okay. Some are getting only $3,000, but I think there needs to be some consideration for our teachers and our administrators and our police department to understand that we can't afford to pay for these kind of benefits anymore, these kinds of increases. And we can't even have trash pickup.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Bruger.
This is Alberta Wolf. I live at 25 Bearhead Road. I'm new. Sorry. My name is Alberta Wolf, and I live at 25 Bearhead Road. I'm new to Medford. I've lived here for 3 years. I bought my house at the height of the market, and my tax, I have gotten a triple rate assessment since my house value went up 3 times since I moved here with the new assessment. So that's an issue for me. But that being said, I just have to ask this question. I understand that the prior administration didn't do the right thing by Medford Township. But I want to know what this administration is going to do when you uncover all the problems that they created and gave to you, what you intend to do to those that created that. Is there anything legally that can be done? Because basically, they have robbed the citizens of Medford Township.
Alberta, if I may, I understand your comments, and I certainly can understand if my reval went up 3 times, or my house was assessed 3 times its value. I would be very upset. I'd be very concerned. And that, again, that one thing that you mentioned is a systemic problem for the entire state of New Jersey. Our government has been left unchecked by the people it serves for so long that they've ran it so far off track. You know, we're going to be decades resolving these issues. Not for Medford Township. We're starting today. We're going to get it fixed. Insofar as any activity that might have fallen outside of what was legal or we'll review those items as they're brought to our attention. There are things taking place to look at that. But I'm just not certain that it's going to bear fruit simply because the government has been allowed to do this. They specifically write and have written laws to allow some of these things to happen.
So any of those people that were overpaid, and I'm going to say I don't believe that you were part of this, are legal counsel, those people that got astronomical amounts of money, are they still employed by this township?
No, insofar as we can recoup those monies, we will.
And
Yes.
are they still on our debt service? Do we still owe them money?
Well, we've denied payment of about $45,000 in legal bills.
Thank you.
We've chosen, so far we're not approving their bills. We've asked questions. We want clarifications. We're not going to approve any bill that we don't think is owed. I don't want to, if anything, I'll say too much. So the only thing I'll say to you with regards to what actions will be taken,
I mean, from what
everything's on
I
the
read
table.
in South Jersey Magazine, again, I read it in South Jersey Magazine. Some of the things were borderline criminal here.
I am about as serious as a human being could be to getting to the bottom of that, of what happened here, and putting in place things to make sure it doesn't happen again, and dealing with a very firm hand anything that is uncovered that perhaps would fall outside of the bounds of legality. In other words, look, we're looking into it. It is the best I can give you right now. I don't want to say too much because
I get that.
There are ways to recover funds if we've been overbilled, and we'll certainly be looking into that possibility.
Mr. Schultz, were you part of the budget committee when all this was going on?
I started May of last year.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf.
Started last month.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Betty Giudice, and we are at 5 Alverley Court in Wingate. I would just like to be on record for the seniors in the town. We moved into this town, into a 55 community, and I understand, Mr. Schultz, about a fair share. We don't have children using the school system. Is there any adjustment, or will there be any type of adjustment made for 55 communities?
Not in New Jersey. That's a problem in every generation.
Yeah.
It's just the way the structure is right now. There's no adjustment.
Here's the way it works. I think there might be some confusion. We used to have an April budget where every year the voters would vote yes or no on the budget.
School budget.
And the school budget. And for the last couple of years, the voters have voted no, but the council gave them an increase anyway. Okay, that happened. Why does that happen? Why does that happen? Oh, all right, I'll stop. This meeting's going to go on.
Why do we vote? Why do we vote?
It's a good question. Good question. It's a good question.
Bother to go to the voting booth if you knew full well, which I've observed, as you point out, for the past why would you vote?
Well,
because they were seeking higher public office.
You notice that the second that they had the opportunity to take that away from the voters, the school board decided to move it to November. Now we don't vote on their budget anymore. They have the ability to raise it 2% every year without public input. It's actually more than 2% because there's 4 exceptions. It could go up probably as high as 3.5% to 4%. But this year, the Medford School District has chosen to come out with a flat budget, which I applaud them for. They did get a $378,000 hit, or not hit, increase in state aid this year. So that
should have came back to Medford.
I would love to see that go back to the voters. I can't affect that. In fact, there's rules about what we can, they're separate boards, they're independent. My recommendation would be to voice that to the school board. The best that we can do right now is to give you all the information that's available to us, which we're doing. We're investing everything we have. I am giving all that we can possibly give to you in terms of being able to provide you with the proper information, and we're making some tough choices up here to get things straightened out.
I'm sorry. We've only been here less than 9 months, and so far our taxes are being increased 20%, and now we have to pay for our trash. And I would just like to make a quick comment regarding, I read some of the comments online as far as the police and the firemen, and maybe we should start there by cutting. I have a problem with that, and I just like to make that on record. The one thing we should never cut is safety. And I don't believe there should be anything. There must be many places that can be cut, but I cannot imagine. And I understand teachers and et cetera, they talk about different things, but how do you replace a life?
Well, one thing that we were looking into this week, we noticed there are towns that have auxiliary police forces. And it's something that we're looking into right now is a possibility of, Haddonfield, for example, has, I think it's 16 volunteer police officers that are essentially citizen officers that handle some of the duties of police officers. That may be a way to defer some of our costs. I don't know. When I say we're looking into creative things, believe me, we are exhausting every possibility for what we can do to provide residents with what they need to live here at the least amount of cost possible. So,
And I understand you've all been given this landmine, so to speak, because you're all new to it, but we're just feeling like that now we're paying for the sins of the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Ms. Saunders.
Laura Saunders, Taunton Boulevard. First, I'd like to ask the manager. I know since being here for 9 months, I've represented the water sewer, and I've been here along with Mr. Boney and Mr. Pace for the last 2 years as we saw the things occurring. I know when I questioned the utility budget when doing your budget presentations, you reiterated tonight that your main concern was with the general budget based on its deficit. And I, representing the water and sewer issue based on the increase that occurred in 2010 of July, as Mr. Pace spoke of tonight, 60% of us represent that 40% increase. And as in 2011, we subsidized it with $2.1 million to make that deficit, which is currently 5.7. Once existed about $7 million up. I understand also that you use the reasoning that it's sewer connections from one individual, but nonetheless, it should be used within that utility department, whereas last year we subsidized 60% of the community, 100% of the community's debt. I represented, as we mentioned here tonight, moving forward, as we address all the issues outstanding, that we would identify a maximum threshold for the surplus we would use for emergency or unidentified expenditures or unforeseen. Moving forward, I hear the word tempting when identifying the $954,000 that remain in water sewer surplus should a referendum not pass by the voters. I understand the challenges you all here tonight represent and are confronted with, as well as numerous people in the audience tonight communicating that it's their first council meeting. And we all stand here and sit and wonder what is happening and how did we get here. And I've heard that Medford First promised not to do this. And I'd like us all to look at ourselves, because we all are here paying because of not paying attention. And I've said this at an HOA meeting that I attended 2 weeks ago. And perhaps we look at this as a death, and not a death that these people up front have created. They're just finally communicating to you that it's been dead for some time, and that they are dealing with the smell, and they are going to remove that carcass. And you, as people of this community, have to come together and form an organized group amongst all the things that we've identified tonight, because we need to go to school board meetings that represent 71 cents out of your dollar. And now, as Mr. Boney communicated tonight, your governor has allowed these school boards to now raise that tax every year up to 2 or possibly 4% without your vote. That's close to 80% of the dollar that you make every day, and it's not their fault.
And 2% of the $47 million that the local school district gets represents a substantial tax increase. 2% of the $9 million that the township is getting is substantially less. So the idea that your taxes, and other communities across the state have already made the decision, other school boards have made the decision to make that increase 2% this year. It's a substantial increase.
And if I may just say, we all read the headlines that they were moving the vote to November to save the state and the municipalities money. What they failed to communicate, media included, that we also were incurring an additional 2% annually on the largest section of your dollar. Now, I ask you, perhaps we all should attend that Monday night meeting, I believe you communicated tonight, and hold them accountable, because the budget we are talking about tonight is 11%. 11%, and that to keep garbage, whatever that percent increase is on 11%, not on 71% of your school tax or 17% on your county. And I just wanted to communicate that because I understand the anger and the vulnerability, and perhaps like the death I talked about, using it as an analogy, leadership, like an awareness that we're all starting to experience, comes in phases, and right now we're dealing with grief and anger and someone to blame. And I'm not asking you to blame yourself, but I think the most powerful thing we can all do is form alliances with one another and be the organized group to confront those who are doing this to us, the school boards, the county, the freeholders. We talk about the New Jersey American Water rate increase, your senators, and to write to these people and become empowered. I mean, so that's what I just wanted to mention, because perhaps the frustration is feeling helpless, and forming these organized groups to go up against and attend meetings and really be effective and learn. And perhaps we can take back our town, along with your help.
970 signatures on a petition, that's pretty impressive.
So my other question is, how much, and I'm sorry, to the manager, I know we have a director of the utility department, I believe his name is Ryan Woods.
Yes.
And does he give you a budget annually?
Yeah, all the departments submit a budget, and then we put it into a format. The reason again, because of our situation with the general fund, I focused more on that. We will have the sewer component completed when we have our next budget workshop.
Well, I know you also mentioned that he did submit his budget and it was followed by the penny.
No, last year we pretty much spent exactly what was budgeted.
Right.
So
and we came up with the 975 or whatever.
But the surplus is what the surplus is, the 954,000.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Tom Corby. I live at 8 Hanover Drive, the Headwater Village development. First off, I'd just like to say thank you to all of you, because the job that you've been given is a formidable one, and we are trying not to create an us versus them adversarial environment. I've watched you guys over the years in the meetings that you have attended. I think that you have at your heart the best interest for the people of Medford. Wendy had mentioned the fact that we're trying to form an alliance. This young lady that just spoke talked about forming those types of alliances. And one of the things I just want to say is that we're at this point trying to form a homeowners association alliance for the express purpose of being able to disseminate accurate information. And I think that's the most important thing we could do. Some of the emails that I've sent out already, I've always, at the foreground, have said that we should do all this with a certain level of dignity and respect for the people that we talk with. That we're in this together. You're the only way that we could possibly find solutions to this. And we're trying to avoid a mob personality type of a situation to develop. When we have the opportunity to review this upcoming referendum or whatever, I think the only thing that some of the people have said to me is that will they be able to understand the actual hard cash impact on what would happen to their tax bill or whatever with an increase. Personally, I believe you guys are trying to work an entire neighborhood or an entire township on 11 cents. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's 11 or 12, isn't it? That's essential. I think it's a bargain at twice that, but the reality is we just can't do that. It's fiscally impossible. So when we think about the privatization of these services, and I know Chris had mentioned that I think you pay somewhere around $320 a year for trash collection.
Yeah, so I get a $78.
Yeah. Chris, does that also include snow plowing as well? Does it include tree removal or brush pickup? So wouldn't it be correct in assuming that if we were to restore all of the types of services that the township has very graciously provided for us over the years, that there would be an exponential increase? It wouldn't be just $320 a year, but it would be if we went to go to the 6 or 7 different products that have been provided by the DPW over the years. It would be substantially more than $320. And that type of thing, I think we really have to get out there. And we're going to try to do that through emails, through websites, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been in contact with many of you. I've had the opportunity to talk at length with Mr. Schultz, great guy. And we have some ideas. We're going to run. They work. Again, it's an alliance. And we want you to know that we're on your side. We're not trying to accuse you of things. We all know that the things, though they were not illegal, they certainly may have been questionably unethical. And that said, that's all we can do with that. Personally, I'm not in favor of privatization. I think the townships do it best when they do it. I think for 11 cents on the dollar, we've had not only DPW, we've also had police coverage as well. Am I correct in assuming that? That's part of that 11 to 12% is public safety as well as public works. And to me, these are essential services. You don't like to see them into the political volleyball game when people try to say, well, if you don't do this, we're going to cut. It's like taking the minimum wage worker and saying you're going to have to work for less because the fat cats are doing $500 lunches. And we're going to try to get that information out there. All I'm asking is if you can give it to us comprehensively so that we can let the constituency, and we have somewhere around almost 50 developments in Medford. I have a list of about 43 already that I have contact with. I'd like to just get that information out to them accurately. And if we could have an agreement that you'll get that information to us, we can get it to them, and they can almost act as senators to be able to get to their local constituents. We have 181 homes in Headwater. Some have 60 or 70 homes. But having the information that you're trying to get out there through your website is great. The more personal contact we have, the less there is of this howling at the moon type attitude. So that's a promise we're making to you, that we're going to try to work with you to get the information out. Just help us to get the information from you so that they can make these accurate type of choices. Other than that, whatever we can do to help you from an association point of view, please let us know. We'll stay in touch with you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Yes, Terry.
Sorry. Came back just in time, didn't I? Terry Palmer, Ellen Avenue.
Hi, Terry.
First, I'm a little concerned about having different trash vendors coming into town. All the town kids waiting for the school bus, emergency vehicles getting around them. It's bad enough. We already, with the school buses and the emergency vehicles, with our township guys doing it, there's an understanding. If they see a school bus behind them, they'll pull over and let us go around. They know where these kids are in these developments. They know where their bus stops are. They're very aware of this, and they're very cautious around them. However, if you bring in different vendors, different days, every day of the week, you're going to have all kinds of strangers around these kids, the traffic, you're going to have buses backed up, you're going to have them stuck on courts. It's just going to wreak havoc on the town. We're going to be late to the schools, whatnot. Also, with that said, bringing all these strangers into our town, with our police being laid off and the numbers going down, exactly what is an auxiliary cop? What do they do?
It's a volunteer, like volunteer fireman.
But yet, our volunteer, now what makes you so sure that they're going to be there to help us and protect us?
Hadfield's they can go to haddonfieldauxiliarypolice.org. They have a whole site set up, there's a thorough explanation. That model is working for one of the best towns in South Jersey.
So it's kind of like our volunteer firefighters. That's not a guarantee that they're going to be there to take care of us.
Well, that's where we're going to talk to Haddonfield and see how it works. I mean, we'll talk. There's actually 17 municipalities in the state of New Jersey that have auxiliary police forces. And we're looking into it because it's like you say, when you talk about being concerned about we're not bringing strangers in to pick up your trash. We just don't have the money. Even if I wanted to pick up trash, we can't. We're literally broke.
No, I get that. But I'm just saying, if people have the opportunity to bring in their own vendors and whatnot, you're talking about different vehicles, different times of every day, you know, and it's just...
There's no options.
We are fully aware of that, and of everything that may happen, that is certainly the least desirable. All of us up here agree. I mean, yeah, that's the least desirable. We would love to get things back on track, to have that reset and move forward. In regards to the auxiliary police, that's a suggestion. There has been no decision made. We're not rushing headlong into something without looking at it.
And don't mistake, that's not to replace what we have, that's to augment what we have.
That's to add to.
Now, the referendum, do the police officers go in that to see if we bring any of them back, or is this just strictly trash?
Ms. Palmer, as soon as we get that information, we can speculate all day, and that's part of where that misinformation comes from.
Well, that's why
questions get asked. You know, we don't have a complete answer because all the information has not been presented to us yet.
Okay.
So again, the decision, what's going on that referendum, we're going to meet again next week, the 13th. We're going to take another swipe at it because we're going to have, you know, quite frankly, more specific information as it relates to what the numbers are and what it's going to represent, what the referendum has to look like. The local finance board is really, really particular about how that thing gets worded. And we have to be very careful that we don't set the township up to some liability because the local finance board interprets what we said or what we presented as, you know, an ultimatum or a threat. You know, it can't be that way. Again, we don't have that information.
If I'm wrong, I think the form of the referendum has to be submitted up to the state.
I will go over that under manager's report, just the process again, so everybody has milestones and what is happening, and to kind of guide everybody up to the referendum date. So I'll go over that.
One thing I will say, though, I mean, from my perspective, I don't think it's fair, you know, to ask the residents to pay more tax dollars to hire back more police without getting substantial concessions from the police union. I just don't think it's fair. The idea is...
We haven't even sat down with them yet. So
well, I understand that.
Don't paint them black
I'm not painting them in any... I'm not saying they're not willing to do it. Okay, but as a matter of fairness, I don't think it would be right to ask the taxpayers to foot 100% of the bill.
Nobody's saying that, but don't sit here and say that they're not willing to negotiate. You've not even sat down and negotiated with them yet.
With all due respect, and again, this town, letters were sent to the unions. One union has stayed in contact with me. One union replied by letter, okay? There have been efforts to try to ask for certain concessions to help us get through this budget process, things like that. So, again, I'm not going to, and I'm part of that, and I've had lots of emails, ask the unions. I have asked. I sent them a letter. I sent them a letter a few months ago. We've talked. We've been talking. You know, we're going to continue to talk. But to say we haven't, I'm sorry. I'm going to be blunt about that. That's absolutely false. Okay? One of the unions, one of those groups has maintained contact with me, and you know, I understand their concerns and their frustration, and hopefully we'll get to some end point. But the other one did respond in writing and copy counsel as well. So I just respectfully disagree with that statement.
Well, it's open for negotiation still. I mean, nobody has, nothing set in stone. Nobody said they don't want to negotiate. Nobody said they're not going to negotiate.
If that's the information you have, I just said one union, I would agree that we are open and trying to communicate and dialogue. The other one did put a letter in writing, basically their position, and I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Well, I'm not going to fight with you about it.
I'm not.
I'm not in the mood. But what I would like to say is a couple of people have come up here tonight and talked about accountability. We all know who put this town where it's at today. I'm not afraid to say the names. It was the prior council, Adesio, Canale.
Yeah. Just so we can move on.
But never,
Chris Myers, Parker McKay, Mike Akey, Steve Adesio, and now construction. There's a place to start. What else? What else, Terry?
Now,
what else?
Excuse me. What I'm saying is, okay, is there any way? I was going to a question with this, not sarcasm. What I'm saying is, isn't there any way you can dig, find out exactly what went wrong, and hold them accountable? Perhaps take their pensions.
And we've addressed that, Terry. We've addressed it, Terry.
I think council at the last meeting adopted a resolution to create an investigative task force, which is permitted within the law. That task force is now starting to do research based on request of information through my office to start looking at that. And they have, I think we allowed 60 days, 90 days?
I believe it's 3 months.
3 months to come back with anything they find and any recommendations they have regarding anything of that nature. So the council did start a process. It was done by resolution. We cited the specific statute that council has the authority to do that.
Yeah, we're just a little early. We don't have the results back yet.
Right. It just was created.
It just started.
So.
And that's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. It's going to take a while. There's a lot to
I
go
know,
through.
but it would just be nice if Medford can finally do something to look good and say, it's time to hold people accountable instead of the taxpayers left holding the bag for them and fight tooth and nail to hold these people accountable for what they've done to us.
Thank you, Terry. Yes, ma'am.
What union are you not able to talk to? Who's holding out on you?
At this point, I'm still
sorry. Name and address for the record.
Thank you, Karen. At this point, I'm going to respect the bargaining process the best I can.
There is a bargaining process.
There is a bargaining process, and as much as I've said,
for being transparent, let's talk about who's bargaining.
There's still a bargaining process. I'm going to respect that.
A couple things I just want to bring up, just a couple things, and I'll be brief because it's the end of the night and everyone's tapped. This completely turning over carte blanche to the YMCA. I really think before we rubber stamp this is a really easy thing, an easy way out, we need to look at this. There was an article in a letter to the editor in the Central Record this week about all of a sudden they're denying memberships that they've had for people who have used their facility for years and years, and I believe we floated a bond or some kind of something. I don't really understand, I don't have knowledge on that, about that, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, it's like an open space thing.
All of a sudden there's a $5,000 donation to Medford something or another. Medford Celebrates, Medford somebody or another from YMCA. I think that's amazingly generous of them right now. Big art, there's a donation, $5,000 that they just recently made that I think, gee, that's just so nice of them. They have an international staff. Whose liability is it when we turn over hundreds of our kids from Medford Chase, from everywhere else? The kids in the township are the CITs for our programs. They're the counselors, they're the trainers. They fight to get into these programs, to work for pittance, to work with everyone's kids in the township. We're going to turn them all over to Camp Occonequin. They get their staff from all over the world. How are they vetted? Who's liable? Are they, if something goes wrong, what's the jurisdiction? What do we know about this? We don't know about anything. We are so cheap. There's a tangible value. It's like she said about knowing who you deal with. We've run these programs for years. The biggest issue we had is some kid got stuck in a swing once. I mean, we know everything, but we're saying, this is great, the facility is right here. We're giving them thousands of dollars of revenue. For what? They should be kicking people off the beach, because we're just going to hand them everything and say, here, good luck, I hope your kids are great. Because we're out of it now, because we don't have the money. Just saying. Occonegan should not be as rubber stamp for us to just throw everything over there because we're handing them a ton of money. Sewer, you're absolutely right. We should somehow get the money back. They've addressed this in a lot of the meetings. A lot of people haven't been here, but if they can give it back to us, it's the legitimate thing. It was misrepresented to begin with, so it's just the right thing to do. You should not add anything but the trash on the referendum because it will not get passed. I'll tell you right now. Cops will get hired back when there's more money, but they will not. You put more in that thing. These people unequivocally told you no. They've told you no on Lennox budgets. They've told you no on all this stuff. Anything more than the minimum, and you're going to be talking to Trent coming down here to run this place. Just do what you have to do. Worry about everything else later. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Kathleen Wichnick. I'm at 11 Presswick Drive in Headwater. This is my first meeting. It's been eye-opening. Sorry.
It's a tough crowd, Kathleen.
Yes, it is. And I have a lot of thoughts have gone through my mind listening to other people's comments, which I'm going to keep to myself, but I do have two questions. The first is whether there are certain services that Medford Township provides that are considered essential versus non-essential. I assume the answer to that is yes. And I assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that trash collection would be considered an essential service.
Non-essential.
Non-essential. Thank you very much.
Let's define it this way.
Okay.
I don't define essential, non-essential anymore. What's legally required, there are statutes that tell the town you have to have this position, you have to have that position, you have to have, there's no private, for example, the government provides public safety as far as police because there's no private model in New Jersey. But there's no statute dictating that we have to be the provider of trash.
Okay.
So I'm going back, my budget approach is what we're mandated by law or law regulations to go and then build from there.
Okay.
Just so.
All right. So it's not. You're saying it's non-essential.
In that sense,
okay.
There's nothing that says the town has to provide that service.
Okay. And I apologize if anyone here is in any way connected with the Medford Township Recreation Department. This is not. Excuse me. Okay. But when I read in the paper that the Medford Township Recreation Department is offering, this program or that program, it reminds me that office or unit or division within the township government is still in existence. And my opinion is that before we cut things like trash collection, we need to take a look at something like the Recreation Department, which is very nice, and if the township can afford it, is a wonderful thing to have. But when we're talking about things like trash collection, I think that the Recreation Department may have to fall a little lower on the list of priorities of services that the township
Karen,
can afford to
I don't mean
give.
to cut you off, but the rec department was eliminated from this year's budget.
From this year's budget.
During the preliminary budget process.
The other thing I wanted to say is that I heard a few times comments that the state regulation requires certain things, and I understand that. I'm kind of familiar with state regulations as well. The question I have is whether anyone associated with the Medford Township government keeps an eye on these regulations when they're being proposed, so that if it's something that's going to have a negative effect on us, we make the comment, and then again, they are only in existence for perhaps 5 years, and then they have to be repromulgated. So I hope that you are.
I can't. Council keeps an eye on it. We are members of the New Jersey League of Municipalities, and there are at least I have participated, and one other director participates on what they call their legislative committee. Any bill that's being proposed through the legislature goes to this legislative committee, which is represented by people such as myself, other elected officials, and we vet those bills on their impacts to local government, and we then push back if we need to the sponsor saying, whoa, this is an unfunded mandate, right. This is going to do this.
But that's legislation. I'm talking about the administrative code regulations. There are myriads of regulations that you have to comply with. I understand that. But again, when those regulations are being proposed, there's an opportunity for comment. You can raise your objections. You can let the agency who's promulgating the regulations know the impact it's going to have on Medford Township. And even if it's passed at one point, they have to be repromulgated again and reproposed every 5 years. So that is something, obviously, that we have to make sure we are keeping on top of.
We get noticed through the reporters, and when, for example, Pineland says they're looking at something, we make sure we're looking at it, what that is going to do. In fact, the recent announcement from our district about relaxing some of the Pinelands regulations in certain towns was initiated through this town because of the trying to allow businesses to come in and flourish, and unfortunately with some of the regulations we believe that's hampering that growth. So it would be something, I think, again, I don't speak for council, as much as we try to stay on top of it, again, we're looking for volunteers and people who may have an interest in doing some more of that, because our staffing levels are low and we're focused. So, please email me if you have an interest, and I think that's something we could get residents involved in.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen. Nancy, please.
Hi. Nancy Flynn Yunkin, 13 Regent Court.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. I just have a quick question. What was the cost of the referendum that you wanted to bring to the township?
Actually, that was one of the things you had to consider. It's about $26,000 to $30,000. We have $15,000 additional dollars we have to allocate to it.
Like $30,000 right now, and you were worried about the lights coming back on?
Yeah. Well, if we don't go to referendum, then we don't give voters the opportunity to make that decision, because we literally don't have the money for trash.
I realize that, but maybe it's time for council to just make the decision and not spend the...
I think a decision like that needs to be left up to the voters. I really do.
The problem with that, Nancy, is that $30,000, it is a substantial amount of money, but we're $5.7 million in debt. If we don't go to referendum, we cannot make enough cuts.
But you're not sure that the referendum is even going to pass. That's half a police officer.
Well, our salaries cover it. We have no salary. We have zero salaries. We're not taking any salaries this year. That'll cover the cost of referendum, just about.
And again, like I said, we could say, no, we're not going to spend $30,000 on the opportunity for the voters to say we want to save our town and not turn it over to
I realize that, but you know that it's not favorable. I mean, I'm hearing people still don't really understand what's going on. They're not going to vote for it, and you're going to have wasted that money.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I remain optimistic. There's a lot of time left before that vote, and there's a lot of effort, and a lot of people are volunteering and saying.
I do it all the time. I talk to people every day, and I tell them, but they're still not getting it.
I understand.
Thank you for that.
All right, just please consider that money.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy.
Anyone else? Joe.
Joe Maglet, 42 and 38 South Main Street.
Hey, Joe.
Just information, it's just, I came from Salem, New Hampshire, actually Medford, Massachusetts, where I lived originally, and then I moved up to Salem, New Hampshire for 4 years. Salem, New Hampshire has a unique situation, kind of like ours. They have trash problem, and what's happening is the council and people in Salem, New Hampshire go to the dump, or they contract the service out. And the people of Salem, the township, the council, wants to take over that function. And now the people of Salem, New Hampshire are writing petitions, just like people are writing petitions now. They want to keep going to the dump and having contractors come into the town and take their trash away. They don't want government to take over it. I mean, I just think it's ironic, that's all. That, I guess it's what we're used to is what we want. I'm not saying that's good for Medford, but it's just information,
Thanks, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
How you doing? Paul Coco, Brattleboro Court, Medford, New Jersey. I just wanted to ask Chris, you said about all that information that we could access on the budget and stuff, and I want to see the numbers, as an average person, I'd like to see where all of my magical tax money is going.
MedfordTownship.com, on the right-hand sidebar, we have 3 items up there right now. We have the manager's presentation, which shows the allocation of taxes. We have our budget workbook, there's actually 4. We have our budget workbook, which is literally shows you where our expenses are. We have the annual financial statement, which shows in detail all of our revenues, and then we have a list of employee salaries.
Chris's PowerPoint. Step back.
Yeah. Just so people understand, and you'll see it in the PowerPoint, I think, last year, that's 11%, again, people have heard me say this, but for the new people, represent $9.3 million of a $21 million budget. So 42% of our revenue is the local purpose tax. The balance is made up of other revenues that state aid, which has slowed down, and these revenues or the deferral school taxes, which was the other kind of plug. So I just want, you may not glean that from some of that information, but I just want people to be clear on that. If you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me.
Well, if you would, the website's on this card, so.
And this is our workbook. This is what's up on the website. And is the annual financial statement?
Yes.
This is up there as well. So the numbers are here. I mean, you can see how.
Just curious because it's kind of hard to find it unless you know exactly what you're looking for. Like God forbid you try to go look up something state. You're digging on Google for hours.
Oh, that's why we try to make it easy. And we're trying to tell people. Anyone who emails me knows that I send back the links and just beg you to please go look at it. Send a link to your neighbors. Post it on Facebook. Do whatever you can. We just need people to know what's going on.
And I just wanted to put in my 2 little cents. Just as my opinion, may have no factual. I've been sitting here listening to all this good stuff and how it broke and all this. And just as being a resident, I've been here my whole life. Everybody else had the flag that got me was the trash pickup. Take away the bulk trash, take away the leaf removal. I don't care about all that crap. I'm sorry, it's all that stuff. You can take it away. Cut my trash. Now I'm getting a little peeved. When we're paying $8,500 a year, I want to know where it's going now. I want to know why we can't.
Remember, we get 11% of that $8,500.
I've been listening to all the numbers, and
that's all we're trying to communicate is just so you know the allocation.
Just like me, just like probably a lot of people that are well off in Medford are going to be, hey, why can't we have simple trash removal and everybody's paying all this tax money? I live in, Cranberry Lakes, and there's a lot of houses in there, and we pay a lot of money per house. I mean, a lot. I mean, if you add that up, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
okay? And, to try to convince them to be like, oh, hey, we have no money for trash, everybody's going to be like, this is just out of proportion.
Paul, the worst part about it was Medford Township was picking up the school board's trash and not charging them.
Until this
We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, we stopped that.
Okay, so we saved a little bit of money. It wasn't much. What got me, Paul, just because believe me, you're representative of a lot of people in this room that are here for the first time. What got it for me was back in 2006, 7, the place where my kids went sledding went away. That's what got it for me. And when I found out what actually happened and why they weren't sledding there anymore, I lost my mind. So believe me, I understand your frustration. Each one of us on this governing body understand that frustration. And all that energy you have right now, we would really like to capitalize on.
Yeah,
I really would.
And, you know, I'm a local business owner, and I'm trying to, you know, keep my business alive while the other half places went, you know, and I just want to, you know, try to keep more stuff here, because on the weekend, everybody's going out and spending money out of Medford, not spending money.
What's the name of your business? Shop Medford First. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
Computer specialist.
Computer special, thank you.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, we just had our laptop fixed there. As a matter of fact, I did a great job for my daughter's laptop.
Shop Medford First. Thank you, Paul.
So, take care.
Anything else? Anyone else? No, you, hold on one second. Let me do everybody else first.
Anybody has this?
Best man.
Hello, I'm Tammy Herbert from 215 Tom Boulevard, and I sat there saying I'm not going to come up and say anything. But first, did I hear you say correctly you guys are forgoing your salaries for this year?
Yes.
So that the five of you are example volunteers at its finest, because I would not. I do a lot of volunteer work from Rotary to Relay, and you couldn't pay me to do your job. So thank you as a taxpayer in the town for that.
The town can't pay us to do it.
I'm a strong believer in leading by example. So I also I played volleyball, and I'm sad to hear that. I used to play at Beverly Lakes where they kicked me out because I wasn't a resident, even if I paid more money. And in some aspects, that's a revenue generator, even if you double the fee that we're currently paying for volleyball, softball, any other sports that may be there. I also am a business owner for Nuss Construction, so I understand business is business and personal is personal. And tough decisions are tough decisions, but, you know, I don't envy you. I think there's a lot of creative ideas that are thrown out here. I plan on being more active. And to the other lady that lives on Tom Boulevard, Saunders, I think her name was, I'm ashamed to be here and not have been involved before, because I think that I would rather see your energy, our energy as a town, and our efforts and our money spent on, we have the problem. No matter who did the problem, we can't change the problem. So the problem, this is the problem, this is the facts. Where do we go from here forward to correct what the issue is? And that's that we're in debt. So, you know, you'll be seeing my face more, and I really plan on being, you know, just involved and listening and being part, so I can not be ashamed and sit here and not know what's going on and be blinded again. So, thank you.
Tammy, you don't have to be a government official. Okay, there are dozens of civic organizations in Medford Township that truly dedicate their time and efforts to volunteerism to make Medford a better community.
Yeah.
So I don't want you or anyone else to get the impression, you know, this is the only way you can help. There's a lot we can do. The Medford Arts Center is standing on its own. Medford Township isn't subsidizing that anymore.
Medford Cedar, yeah.
You know, all the civic organizations are going towards that direction. So again, there's thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to do this against my...
Tom Corby, I'm back here again. Just as a point of clarification, first off, the no salary thing, great example of leadership. Thank you very much for that, and I echo her sentiments. Is the referendum to include other services, restoration of other services as well, or is it just specifically the once-a-week automated trash pickup?
Again, I'll get to it, but what council's asked me to do is crunch some numbers if we moderated certain services. Just a real quick example, at the heyday, 2010, you know, we had 25 brush collections, 5 zones, 5 times. In all my service to different municipalities, I've never seen it that much. So we're running numbers. Well, what if it was twice a year each zone? Sure. We're just trying to get some moderation so that then council can, I think, because that's, again, I'm hearing for some people for the first time tonight, but I've had tons of emails where people are, you know, if you can moderate, you know, what if the dump was open 2 Saturdays a month or one, you know, I think people will be willing to accept some level of balance. That's, the council's got to make that ultimate decision.
That's exactly what our constituents are asking us.
Well, those cuts may make up the difference, but when we put it to referendum, we're going to put it together, we're going to package it so that you get more than one thing for,
Sure.
a chunk of money.
Is it possible, and I don't know if this is feasible, to make it like, plan A, B, and C?
No.
No, you can't do that. Okay, when you determine, yes, it'll be done. Okay, great. Just, again, this is information I just want to get out to these people. Would you consider putting other items into referendum? Obviously, you're considering that right now, and it's a work in progress, I understand it. The eliminated services from DPW, does that also include snow removal, or is that?
Well, again, the challenge is if we had to go that route, there would still be some public works left. We still have roads we have to deal with and things like that, so we'd have a core group, but we'd have to come up with a model, whether we do per diem. We do per diem now, where we have drivers come in. We'd probably have to look at outsourcing parts, and we do part of that now too. But yeah, if the money's just not there to support that department in a way. So if trash were to remain, we've talked about it. Trash may not, even if trash stays with the government, it may not be our employees long term, because once this community decides which direction it wants to go, then the challenge for us is not allowing to happen what's happened in the past.
Sure.
Our expense side has to stay down and stable long term. And so I don't know if we're going to have to go through that exercise with public works unions on whether we can sustain that model. It's there's a lot of issues in that. So that's the challenge. That's my biggest fear. And I've been knocking on wood this winter just because we didn't have a storm. And I've been slowly cutting away at that every week. We got by this winter. That's some money I can save. Put some in the snow trust. But
it is in plan.
Yeah, snow is the most difficult thing to budget and plan for, unfortunately. So
I just think it's important for everyone to understand exactly what it would mean if we went privatization, and again, it's a matter of getting that information out there. But yeah, thank you for doing that. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Please.
Come on up. Yeah.
Since we're not having brush pickup, we don't have that anymore, what happens with all the brush that our neighbors leave by the curb? Is there any sanctions for that? Are they required to remove that?
If you had a landscaper do it, the landscaper, by ordinance, the landscaper is supposed to take it. Right. So that's step one. Step two is I've taken more of a soft approach right now, because the residents then create this problem. So we are now in the mode where we're crafting letters, and we're going to give still like a window, maybe 30, 45 days, like, look, I guess my biggest frustration is those who say, oh, we're just going to dump it. Is that what you really want to become your town? You're right. So we're going to start doing notices. Same thing with Christmas trees. Look, we're not going to be able to get it right now. We're asking you to do this. Otherwise, we are going to have to, I call it, put the iron fist down. Yeah, we're going to have to enforce it. So, but again, I didn't want to take a hard approach right off the bat until some of this got vetted out with where we were budgetarily and things of that nature. So, but yeah, we're starting to get more of that transition now. Like, all right, we recognize the problem. However, we saw that we still have a community to deal with, and so we're transitioning now as well.
Thank you, Alberto.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Motion to close public.
I'll make a motion to close.
Second. Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. We have one resolution, 45-2012. Submit recycling tonnage grant application, New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. I spent a little time at the township building today reviewing that information. Any council members have any comments about that?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 45-2012 authorizing Smith recycling tonnage grant application to New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Mr. Manager, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. You already took care of the Earth Hour proclamation. The second item is we have a number of applications for public safety volunteers. Madison Mason as a junior member, Daniel Margolis has transferred from a junior member to an adult member with the EMS Station 258. Alex Collins, new fire police member with Taunton Fire Company Station 252, subject to passing a physical, which is pending, and Benjamin Allen applying for firefighter with Taunton Fire Company Station 252, subject to passing a physical, which is pending.
I've reviewed the paperwork that was submitted. It looks like this is simply a matter of the Department of Public Safety, the clerk, and Township Council acknowledging receipt.
Yes, just so your understanding, when you acknowledge, that allows, especially the newer members, they get added to our insurance once they become a member. So your acknowledgement kind of facilitates that you've accepted them into the system.
Well, the fact that we still have people wanting to come forward and volunteer, I think is significant. It says a lot about where Medford Township is. Any comments by council? All right.
The next item was just some budget guidance. I just wanted to keep everybody abreast of where we're at the February 29th council meeting. Council did start discussing a referendum strategy as to what services may be included, but no final decisions were made. I was asked to start crunching some numbers relative to, we did talk a little bit about police and what one or two, so we're going to give you a base level of what bringing an officer back would cost, breaking down some of the services, bulk trash, but in a moderated sense, as I just described, rather than doing the way we might have been doing business at the heyday, so to speak. Council then, we're working with the auditor to now start to really crunch that number into the legal format, which is what's required once we go to introduction. My workbook is simply a workbook. It's not the legal format. And we're going to finalize the utility side as far as the budget appropriations and revenue and get that to you for next week. From a timing standpoint, the next milestone is for the referendum, a narrative explanation statement must be received by the Director of Local Government Services in Trenton by March 21st for the April election. So my thought process is we have that meeting next week, and if we fine-tune that, and then the March 20th council meeting, at that point, council is, between next week and that meeting, crafting that narrative that that we can send to Trenton. Trenton will sign off on that. Once that comes back, then the next milestone is the budget, if not introduced already, must be introduced no later than Friday, March 30th for the April vote. The budget must reflect the tax levy and provisions of any planned referendum, and that publication of that introduced budget must take place no later than Thursday, April 5th. So my thought process would be, again, it's subject to council's approval. You have a workshop next week, get the narrative taken care of on the 20th, have another workshop, final workshop the week of the 30th to introduce. At that point, you have your introduced budget. You can still have additional meetings. We talked 2 meetings ago about maybe doing something at Shawnee with again presenting where we're at and how we got here and all of that. So you would still have time leading up to the referendum date, which is April 17th. To do those things, but I just want to keep council on the milestone task.
And just so we're clear, we're introducing a budget without the referendum.
That I'm still trying to get clarification. I think the state prefers you introduce it with the referendum.
That's the way the local finance notice reads.
But everybody would be clear, if it doesn't pass, by that point we need to have balance.
And that's what the local finance notice says. We have to be prepared in the event of a referendum failure to immediately introduce the balanced budget.
And that's something. Do you think that's something that we'll have available for the public, at least to view? Or is that, do we not do that?
Our goal is to, again, my goal is to be balanced, irrespective of a referendum, because that's what happened last year. The budget was nowhere near balanced when I was hired in May. The referendum failed. and then we spent 6 months trying to figure out. My feeling was I have an obligation to try to go into this with balance.
Is there a concern? I mean, I heard somebody mention it. I don't know what the rules are. Is there a concern? We're allowed to publish both, right? Or is that considered? I don't put a gun to people's heads. I just want people to understand exactly
what you would do is publish the referendum, the introduced ordinance with the referendum. If it failed, you're going to amend it and then adopt by April 30th. Okay. That's the process.
So we can let them view what we'll be adopting if it fails?
Yeah, well, there's a process. You do another notice to do the amendment, what the amendment means, and then there's another hearing on that amendment process, and then you do the vote.
I just want people to be able to vote with eyes wide open, that's all.
I understand. And then some of the, Ms. Scully here, I don't want to put her on the spot, resident did talk about, again, some of the other residents working to try to craft a message. It just can't come. It's the way the referendum rules work is
fill in the blanks.
Yeah, we just fill that out. We can't be out kind of promoting in a certain way. The residents can, and we've talked about how to get that message out as well. So, that's just the budget process right now. And again, if council wants to look beyond next week, feel free to email me, and we can start setting up venue as far as having additional meetings, if that's
all kind of a blur. So
yeah, well, I understand.
One of the things we should we don't need to talk about it tonight, but at one of the other meetings, because the referendum will be the same day as the council meeting.
Yeah, it's 17th. Oh, okay.
So we need to talk about what we're going to do there.
Yeah, I mean,
but we don't need to talk about it tonight.
Right.
We can discuss it in another meeting. But I'm just saying there's a conflict there.
Okay.
Potentially.
That's all I have.
I need to make that number real quick.
One follow-up from the last meeting, Mr. Magalet asked the status of the crosswalks. The county traffic engineer, I've been playing phone tag. I did let him know that as soon as I get that information. And that was just the update on the paving, when the crosswalks would be repainted, and any additional signage that's going up on the crosswalks in the downtown area.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Sure. Bill list.
All right, I got a number of items. Kathy, do you have the bill list? Okay. Let's start with page 2, the charges for a line mower. Starting from the top, there's 2011 ordinances, 1675. There's four listings for ordinances. Do we know what there are 4?
Ordinances for planning and zoning.
Okay, what would that entail?
I'd have to have the bill in front of me.
I think that's the sustainability master plan. Part of that might be the master plan, the sustainable master plan element that the planning board went through. The redevelopment studies they were charged to do. They did several of them. But I don't have the bill in front of me, but that's just from what I recall when I got here they were working on.
Okay.
So we can, if you want to pull that, we can just double check.
Yeah, I would like to pull those. Bottom of the page, that's for the Holly Drive, the demolition. It's like 15 grand.
Yes, that was the demolition. As soon as we get everything in, we'll be back to you with a resolution so we can put the lien.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fine. All right. Page 7. This is part of ERI's bills. Okay, if I start at the top, there's an item for RBC Project Engineering Service, 166887. The date is back to 4/16/09. Okay, and we're being billed for it now. And I mean, if you go right down that list, all those are old, except for one. The second one's 22912, but then there's 10/15/10, 2/15/11, 5/23/11, 6/29/11, 7/11/11.
That's the first encumbered date. That's when the project was first encumbered. You have ongoing projects that they submit bills for.
Okay, but what's the current date of the bills? Is that the 2/29 date?
Yes.
Okay, so the work was done during February, presumably?
Correct.
Okay.
That's the project's basically, Kathy's encumbered, I would say, to start the authorization date to
Okay,
move
all
forward.
right, that's fine, because I see if you go to the second page, a lot of you go to page 8, and again, they're all 2/29, the encumbered date, or 3/1, I mean, they're the same date as the receipt date.
That's
So-
because there was no encumbrance done in advance. It's at the time we received the invoice that we're putting it in.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means the department didn't encumber money prior to the work.
That might be like a cold call to ERI or whoever the engineer is to go check something out.
Wait,
It
why
may not
would
be
we-
part of a project or things of that nature.
Well, why would we call ERI in February when Dante Guzzi's our engineer?
Remember, we had transition. We didn't have a transition meeting until what, 2 weeks ago? So until council deferred the appointment, and so there's still some carryover.
It's still ongoing project,
So
something that happens
It
annually.
took place on February 1st, that's
Yeah.
Correct.
So then, prior to it.
Okay. Let's see. Page 12. All right, there's an item from Lawman Supply for hose grips, $187. It's actually $197 with the shipping. Is that for multiple sets of grips?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Next item, Lenape Regional High School, the Alliance grant for Defy the Issue. It's $64.80. Now, is that coming out of grant money? Payment for that?
The $5,400 of it is grant money, $1,080 is from the trust.
Okay, so none of it's coming out of the current?
Correct.
Okay. All right, next page, page 13. Memorial Middle School, reimbursement, Alliance, reimbursement for Alliance, $387.35. Do you know what that is?
Not without the purchase order in front of me, no. It's coming from grant, though, I can tell you that.
Okay, that's grant
Part
money
of
as
the
well?
municipal alliance, I believe.
It is part of the municipal alliance, but what this CHIPS
Specific is.
program is, I don't know.
Okay. All right, and then, of course, page 14, our favorite item, the New Jersey American Water bill for a month, $55,000 for water we don't need.
And what happens if we just say no?
We're contractually obligated.
It's a contract.
How long we
Contractually obligated.
They can get a judgment and collect.
The contract was let in 2007. We're bound for 15 years.
How about if we withheld payment of the state, its funds we collect for their taxes, and make them pay for it?
If the DEP regulation goes away, and even if the DEP regulation goes
Send
away,
the National Guard down on us.
That's all I want.
even if the DEP regulation goes away, we still have a contract. But if the DEP regulation goes away, my contention is, well, we're not required to buy the water anymore, so New Jersey American Water can't force us to buy something we are no longer required to buy. Okay? We still have a contract with them. We're not breaking the contract because the DEP no longer requires us to buy the water. So this is something for the legislature to act upon immediately, not in 3 years when they figure out, who to talk to and what to talk about in regards to wasting taxpayer dollars.
So that $600,000 that was signed by, was Mr. Rutter on council at the time?
He was.
So Mr. Rutter signed that contract, and now he is your state representative who is requiring us to spend this money. You ought to go have a conversation with Mr. Rutter about getting that corrected, because that's $600,000 a year, and I don't know why we ever signed that contract to begin with. We have the water and wells. So, have a good conversation with Mr. Rutter. That's a good one to have right there.
All right.
Doesn't return anything.
Where is his office located?
The old Medford Central Record office, which is in the strip mall right behind the police station, on this end, the end down this way.
Be excellent conversation to have with him. Why'd you sign the contract?
Well,
what can you do to fix it?
Same strip mall as the salad works, yes.
All right. Last item I have, page 15. We replaced the garage roof. Do we know where that is? It was 17,495.
That's Public Works.
Public Works
Yeah,
garage?
we had an issue with the...
I had a question about the previous. We paid $75 for a mayor workshop. I just want to know what the mayor learned. I gotta laugh at some point if I don't have to cry.
All right. That's all I have on the bill list.
Mr. Watson, anything on the bill list?
Nothing, just...
With the exception of those noted, may I have a motion to approve the bill list?
Well, I think the only thing we're going to
You're
pull
going to
the line
pull
up.
with the exception of pulling the Alimo bill to just provide the detail.
Provide the details.
Yes.
All right. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next up, discussion items, pay-to-play ordinance amendment. I know that Councilman Beanstalk did provide some additional information in regards to the pay-to-play ordinance. And I know that all those were circulated and distributed, and now here we are back for another review. I say we start with Mr. Beanstalk, cover his changes, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mayor. The primary focus of my changes were the provision that was in the proposed ordinance that was underlined, having to deal with contributions, candidates by political organizations or PACs and political committees. What I tried to do was tailor that more to address specifically Wheeling, which I understood from our discussion at our last meeting was the focus of that provision, and it seemed to accomplish more than that. So what I did is I took that provision and I expressly made it to prohibit Wheeling by saying, I put a sentence at the end that said it's the intent and purpose of this provision to prohibit the practice commonly known as Wheeling. And then I put some qualifying language above it that also went ahead and tied it specifically to contributions made by professionals, which is what the purpose of the ordinance is. I then also made some revisions to the provision earlier in the ordinance. I think it's section 1B, which deals with contributions made by entities that want to respond to requests for proposals. And this provision is designed also to deal with Wheeling. The language in it specifically prohibits contributions that are made either directly or through a series of contributions to another entity that wind up in the candidates, with the candidate. The idea being that regardless of whether the entity that makes the contribution has knowledge that the money winds up there, if it does, then it's prohibited and it would be a violation of the ordinance. And I think that by tailoring it this way, we get to the practice of Wheeling and we prohibit it and do it in a more narrow focus.
Right. Thank you. You know, it's funny because anyone who was here at our last meeting, Councilman Beanstalk and I, Beanstalk and I went back and forth, you know, he really wanted to make these changes. As a result, I think we have a better ordinance. I think it's a lot more specific in dealing, and just so people know what Wheeling is, I max out my campaign contribution to this person, so I can't give them any more, but I really want a contract, so I give money to this person over here, then turns around and gives it to the candidate. That's how we had $100,000 spent. You know, Myers, Brown, Lynn spent over $100,000 on their campaign. Mary Ann O'Brien and Bob Martin, unopposed, spent over $60,000. So, you know, we're looking at these huge sums of money, and that was one of the main mechanisms that were used to fund those campaigns. And, you know, this really puts, this is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, in New Jersey right now, pay-to-play ordinances, because it deals with
It's the Jersey City model, and then it grabs anti-wheeling pricing on top of it, which goes beyond the vendors.
So it really puts limits on anyone who wants to negotiate a contract with the township to give campaign contributions beyond a low level of $300 per candidate or $500 total. We include business entities, wheeling through political action committees, and also place limits on unions on what they can give.
I just have a few comments, and I want to commend Jeff. You did a fantastic job redrafting. The first iterations were good. This is much better. But I just have a couple of comments with regard to the limits. It just seems to me as I read through this, under, it would be section 1C, the monetary threshold. Is there some way we can maybe append a list of, here's what an individual can contribute, here's the maximum, just sort of to take it out of the wording and make it...
That is the way the state outlines it, and I guess I would encourage, I realize we want to get this done, and we keep pinging it. The state provides a graph or chart, you know, that kind of spells it out, and it makes it a little bit more comprehensive, because you're actually going to have individuals that are monitoring this, they're taking contributions, having been a treasurer for a candidates committee, having that chart, I have to tell you, it made a significant difference, because we are substantially altering the minimum requirements. We're imposing some of our own, and I don't want to leave a guy that really wants to help his community by getting a group of guys elected or a particular candidate elected and leave him swinging because he wasn't, you know, he wasn't sure and he didn't read through it all. A chart's a whole lot easier for a layman. Now, certainly, I have to tell you, Councilman Beans, I am tickled by the amount of effort, time, and interest you put into this. I could not have, you know, I'm just amazed. We right now, as it stands, we got an awesome product. How much time are we talking to put a small chart together?
Do you want a chart, or do you, because what I don't want to do is cause confusion, because these limits in section 1C are the limits on the vendors bidding on the contract, which is completely a different animal than the restrictions on the individuals, which is $2,600 per line.
We can't touch that. That's the state.
Yeah, that's state law. That's state law.
Right.
So,
well, you know, we can head it like that.
Maybe what I can do
is to these organizations.
Maybe add, well, if you want a chart, we can add a chart, or if you want it says nothing prohibits any individual from making any contribution.
Well, do we do that, or we just had it, like Deputy Mayor Chekai said, do we just had it, this applies to vendors?
If we just have an abstract, let me ask you this. I honestly, I think the ordinance is excellent. I want to get it passed. I'd like to put it up for first reading tonight as is.
Well, wait a minute, I'm not done.
Oh, okay. All right, but with any maybe minor change that we make, but adding it, if we do decide to put an abstract on it, let's say, is that something that we'd have to do that before we put it up for first reading?
I think you would.
Okay.
You got to, if there's a material change to it.
I want to get this in place.
All right, well, my next comment is this, and it's under section 1F. Okay. And if you go to the top of, I don't know what page it is here.
I don't know how they're numbered.
It's the underlined section. F starts on the bottom of one page, and then we go to the top of the next page. Okay. If we go to the sentence, well, let me just read the whole thing. No Medford Township candidate for council shall accept any contribution from any state, county, municipal, or other political party or committee, PAC, union, or any other association or organization that regularly engages in support of candidates for elective office. And a parenthetical is collectively political organizations and each a political organization. To the extent the political organization received the funds constituting such contribution from another political organization or individual for the purpose of circumventing the contribution thresholds, limits, and restrictions set forth in this ordinance. The provision, or the section I'm concerned with is the language that says, for the purpose of circumventing.
Circumventing is legal?
Okay, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to suggest, I'm not saying, but that we change that from, to read, another political organization or individual, and that results in contributions that exceed contribution thresholds, limits, and restrictions set forth in this ordinance. That's the same thing. Yeah. As opposed to saying, for the purpose of circumventing, which implies some intent, as opposed to, this is the result.
Yeah, it doesn't, intent doesn't, we don't want intent to be a
no, intent is taken out of it. It just, this is, if it results in it, then it's a violation.
Yeah.
That results.
And that results in contributions that exceed the contribution threshold, limits, and restrictions set forth in this ordinance.
That takes out the, oh, I didn't know, excuse.
Right. But that, I don't know, excuse is really covered in section B.
Yeah.
It's these paragraphs are really duplicative.
Right, because you changed.
That's what B is.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
That's resultant.
That sort of like makes it a strict liability for it as opposed to purposeful, because it's hard to prove intent. Someone says, I made the contributions out of my hands. I don't know where the money went.
Yeah. Section B that I changed does the same thing. So this change just makes it consistent.
Yeah, just consistent. All right, now under section G, there's just a word missing.
Yeah, in.
Okay, all right, you got that. All right, and the last one under section 6, the exemptions. I understand what they are, but do we need them? Are we required to have those exemptions?
This came out of the model ordinance out of Jersey City.
Okay.
I don't recall whether it was something that was required or not.
Okay, because there's an exemption for lowest responsible bidder and for emergency.
I think this is talking about emergency contracts, which don't go through an RFP process. When you have an unforeseen event and you need to hire someone, you can't wait to go through the bidding and notice periods. It's just sort of saying that those contracts are not subject to this.
Well, from the RFP standpoint, though, I mean, you know what? If you exceed the limits, isn't it too bad you can't bid? I mean, I don't know. I mean, because we have penalties against a professional. If you exceed the limit, you can't be a professional. You can't have a contract if you exceed the limit. So, can't we exclude you from bidding if you exceed the limit or no? And to me, I know that if they're the lowest response,
they're different class of contractor for the town, professional PR. This pay-to-play generally deals with RFPs for professional service contracts, whereas the ones where it's the low bidder, it's a different class. It's not professional service. It's who's going to give you the lowest bid.
And for the record, the thing that really alarms me is when you see emergency. One of the things that we did as a town is we awarded $8.5 million. We had $8.5 million of emergencies in 2 years. And the point is we have to, just because somebody may have stretched the meaning of the word emergency, the state is actually pretty precise on what an emergency is, and that abuse, we shouldn't have to say, oh, by the way, don't make up emergencies. So I'm comfortable leaving it in there because there is a possibility of having a legitimate emergency, and you may inadvertently, make a mistake. But they're usually much smaller than the bills we've taken in the past.
Those types of contracts are out.
they're not RFP.
I mean, do we, I don't know, do we want to leave the exemptions in there? Do we have to? Is there state regulations around that, or?
Take it out.
How do you feel about taking it out? What would be the remedy if a legit, like, let's say there was a legitimate emergency and there's a truck around the corner and they
I
get there
have a problem
first?
taking it out for the emergency one, but the other one just says they're awarded the lowest responsible
All right, let's
bidder.
take it out.
The lowest responsible bidder gives you the statute. That's something where there's no discretion. We have to accept the low bid.
Do we have to accept a bid from someone?
Professional service contract.
Not for professional services contract. Those are separate contracts.
Different statutes. I think it's okay to leave it in. It's really.
I don't see any
All
right.
Because it specifically addresses what it is.
Can we put something in here that says that this does not, these exemptions do not apply to professional service contracts?
Yeah, we'll clarify that.
Because it doesn't say that.
Well, hold on. I thought...
Well, no, the meaning is to 48A 11.4. I'm assuming that's the statute that deals with those types of contracts being awarded. This is from the model ordinance, right?
These exemptions deal with non-RFP type contracts, essentially. I think it's okay to leave it in. It's not going to hurt anything.
Okay. So
Briefly, I think Mr.
It already says it. The last sentence of section 6 says that there's no exemption for contracts awarded pursuant to a fair and open process.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. It's right there. The sentence before.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Revere.
Thanks for the hard work, Councilman Stock. I think this is a great job. It answers all my concerns that I had a couple weeks ago at the last council meeting, and I would be for this ordinance going forward with Mr. Checkeyes. Change there as well.
I know you guys want if you want an abstract, it's fine. We delayed it another 2 weeks. I'd like to adopt it as is now for first reading.
You want to what?
I want to adopt it as is for first reading with the change that you, you know.
You do that.
I'd like to adopt it for first reading. We pass it.
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, we can put a chart on it if we want. I mean,
Again, to the solicitor's point, that chart probably will just cause more.
Mr. Norman.
I think it might cause more confusion to talk about this.
All right, no chart.
If you pass the ordinance as is, a chart can be an administrative tool. I think if council still want to do that, it doesn't have to be, we can pull out what they're trying to accomplish by administrative process. So
I'd like to give people
it's like a fact sheet.
Well, that's it.
We can issue a separate fact sheet. Let's just do that.
Yeah, because I mean, I look at that. I mean, and I'm a little confused.
Sure.
I mean, and I can just imagine somebody who, doesn't do it for a living.
I think it is important to get this passed because we do have an election coming up.
I'm a little concerned about the election as much as I am about good legislation. That's my only concern. Let's get it right the first time. I don't want to go back and change
we have a good bill here.
If you're inclined to introduce, Kathy, you have a number?
I believe it's 1. I don't believe we've had one yet this year.
Right. First ordinance.
Yeah.
1, 2012.
2012-1.
Oh, sorry.
So motion, do we have to spell out exactly the change in the motion?
It's first reading. We're going to have to open it for public comment because it's
second reading.
Second reading.
You will set the hearing.
But we have to set the date for second reading.
Next council.
Medford historically, I think, has skipped a meeting.
Yes.
Between intro and hearing. Now, you don't have to. I'm just saying. I think.
Well, what is the? I know there's a requirement. There has to be a specific number of days between.
It's 7.
Is it only 7?
Yeah. For that, yeah. Or the budget's a little different, but
April
most
17th is the next meeting, which we may move. So.
I'm not sure who would object to this, other than people who want to fund their campaigns differently. But all right,
this is the 6th of March. March 20th is the next council meeting.
Yep.
So,
Or no, April, no.
no, March 20th.
No, like April 6th is the one after that, right?
Yeah,
That would be the-
Yes.
Yes.
So it isn't December.
It's 2 weeks. I see no reason not to make it the 20th.
I'm sorry, it's the 3rd. It's the 3rd, is the...
Yeah, April. Sorry, there's a 5th week in March.
Yeah. So, just the 3rd.
And you have to remember, it doesn't take effect for 20 days after it passes on second reading, so if you want it to take effect for the election, it's important.
I think we need to get it in place.
The election, not until June.
Well, it's not, yeah, June and then November. Plus, I think people need to see where, you know, we had questions all night. How did we get here? Well, this is how we got here. We're dealing with it. I want it out front and center. People to see we're taking positive steps.
Again, I have no problem with going first reading this evening and second reading on the 20th. That's 2 weeks. The minimum requirement is 7 days. That gives us 2 weeks. Waiting, you know, essentially 4 weeks until April 3rd, you know, you're spending 2 more weeks.
Is it doable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
I don't have a problem.
All right.
Happy you'll have the final form tomorrow.
All right, so for first reading, we have to introduce it by ordinance number and title, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, ordinance number 2012-1, an ordinance establishing that a business entity which makes political contributions to municipal candidates and municipal and county political parties in excess of certain thresholds shall be limited in its ability to receive public contracts from the Township of Medford in the County of Burlington. Introduced for first reading, 6th day of March 2012. This is a roll call, is it not?
Correct.
Okay.
Motion or...
I need a motion.
I need a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt on first reading ordinance 2012-1.
Seconded?
I have a motion by Councilman Beanstalk, seconded by Councilman Woney. Roll call vote.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Yes.
Mr. Boney?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Checkeye?
Aye.
Mayor Pace?
Aye.
And there's the public hearing for 3/20/12.
Public hearing, yeah.
Public hearing is scheduled for 20 March 2012, 7:30 at the Public Safety Building for second reading and second reading of ordinance 2012-1, pay-to-play legislation. Next on the agenda. Sign ordinance. Yay.
Just hold it up.
Okay, everybody got their marked up copy, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Any comments?
Actually, do you have my copy first?
I have a copy.
Frank mine at the last meeting.
Well, I like all the X's. Just, I don't know if there's enough, though.
Just, I guess to give people a sense, if you're at the last meeting, we talked about the sign ordinance, or 2 meetings ago, how cumbersome it was, and I told you I hurt my knee and this hurt my elbow picking it up. Well, we asked for a lighter bill. This is what we're looking at. It's pretty much, you know, we went from 40 pages down to, I don't know, I haven't seen it in an unmarked up, but literally every page after page we have streamlined the process that businesses in Medford tell us they won't come here because we make it so hard. So we are taking the sign ordinance, making it simple, making it understandable. The only thing I want to add is, you know, Ms. Norman had a lot of success with some billboard language that he used in Mount Laurel. I would like to add that. I really don't want, I mean, this sign ordinance, there was, what was handed to us, it was an attempt, I think, because of, they wanted to grant billboards under the Medford Crossings thing on 70, which I absolutely hated the idea. There was some provisions allowing it, And I want to specifically prohibit billboards, as part of, I don't think that fits in Medford. But I do think we need to make it really easy for good upscale businesses that want to come, that reflect our culture, our values, where we want to spend our money so we can shop here at home. I think we need to pave the way for that, make it easier so we get a better reputation.
I can address the
Yeah, I had a similar comment. I was concerned about the billboard provision being removed, and at the risk of making the ordinance longer, I'd like to see those provisions go back in. And then ultimately, the Medford Crossings issue is in the redevelopment plan. So regardless of what we do here, that's still going to be part of that redevelopment plan, which we can choose to address at some point or not.
Yeah, and those were essentially temporary billboards as part of that plan anyway, were they not?
I'm sorry.
They were. My understanding was there was going to be temporary signs, and then there were going to be permanent signs as well. And the traditional billboard, as it were the temporaries. Am I incorrect?
I think that's correct.
I believe that's how that was worded and how that was structured. We're going to be defined temporary. Those signs were going to be there until all the units sold.
They're 400 square feet, so it's a large billboard.
I think it's a good start. I mean, I'd like to see the billboard language added and then see a cleaned up copy.
Yeah, this is hard to read because
how do we get a cleaned up copy?
And someone's got to, I guess, go with us and I have to get the original.
All right, here's the word.
I'll retype it. It won't take long.
Mr. Watson, do you have comment?
I think it's a great first step. Again, I'd like to see a cleaned up copy.
Okay.
The full ordinance is great.
After the last planning board meeting, I spoke with Mr. Augustin at length in regards to the sign ordinance. It's been going on for a long time. We made comments. We've discussed this publicly before about Medford being open for business and the things that are standing in our way as a community. And this was one of the things that a lot of people pointed to and said, we got to get this fixed. Well, when I was handed what the planning board was recommending to council, and I took it home and I did the same thing that Mr. Augustin has done. I marked it up, and I marked it up with the mindset, what are we doing to attract business? What are we doing to make things better for the businesses we currently have? So, a cleaned up copy is a great idea. Here's what I want to avoid. Joe Augustin is the planning board planner. Okay? Yeah, we want to get this in a electronic format so that we can clean it up. I'm not turning this back over to planning board for another look. Right now, this document, we own it. Whatever we change, we own. This thing's been in the process for 6 years. I do not want to see this go back to planning. We're wasting our time if we do that.
I don't know if we can do that.
Oh, okay.
When in ordinance, any type of zoning ordinance provision has to be referred to the planning board under municipal land use law. The planning board has to weigh in for whether it's consistent with the master plan. That's their exclusive role. And then they can make recommendations. Now, and it comes back to the council on second reading. And if you find that their comments disagree with them, if you have a legitimate plain reason for rejecting their recommendations, you can do so. But it will require 4 out of 5.
Okay, maybe I was misunderstood. I don't want to mark this up, send it back to planning, and go back and forth between planning and the governing body with corrections, additions, and deletions to this plan. When it goes back to planning, it needs to be in that smooth format, and we need to tell planning, you tell us whether you believe it's consistent or not, and that's all we want you to do. We don't want you to mark this up again.
Well, they can make
You've had it for 6 years.
Yeah, they make recommendations.
Well, and that's...
They don't mark it back up. Council introduces it in form, it goes back to them for review, comes back, they'll tell you whether it's consistent or not. And council makes its
I'm not looking
determination
for
and
another
votes on it.
review by
That's the process.
EDC, by planning, by any other board or commission in the township. This was a finished document when we got it. It's no longer a finished document. So again...
They're not going to mark it up, they're just going to review it for consistency.
Roger that. So we're going to get a cleaned up copy and
introduce it maybe at the next meeting
with the language of billboards.
Will we be able to see it before, in advance?
I'll get to the draft with the billboard stuff and cleaned up, of course.
All right. Last but certainly not least, planning board membership.
I prefer to table this for our next meeting. I'm not ready to discuss this right now.
I'm okay with that. That's fine. Anybody else?
Objections? No, I was going to suggest that as well.
Fine. All right. At this time, I'm going to open it back up to public comment. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. As it relates to the discussion items we just covered and any new business.
I'm just curious, Art Van Hill, again, what was the discussion, or will be the discussion on planning board membership?
There's a question as to whether, one of the things we're trying to do is really streamline things, and the question right now is whether we're, by law, township by ordinance, has either a 7 or a 9-member board. Currently, it's 9 members. You know, I think there's a good case to be made why it should be 7 members and not 9. And that was, I'm just not, there's so much going on with the budget right now, I honestly haven't.
I'm just curious what that.
Yeah, that's the question is whether, because if it's a 7-member board, again, it's as much about showing businesses and the public that we want to streamline things. We want to make it easy. We don't want to be the difference that you've heard about that everyone's afraid to invest in. We want to know that we're the Medford that encourages business, and we encourage, you know, companies that want to come in and support our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Joe? Just, if I may, so for the public that's left, Mr. Megalet has been instrumental in a lot of what we're looking at right now with the sign ordinance. That's not to say that the work he has done has all been for naught. It's been a tremendous effort over a long time. He's worked very hard to try and push this to help with Medford businesses. So I had to add that, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Name and address.
Joe Maglet, 3842 South Main Street. I just want to make sure that some of those things that I've been trying to get done are in what you're marking up. You know, basically, the sign is allowed 5 feet from the road. You know, within the boundaries. Whether the sandwich boards are allowed on the curves. The $40 fee for a temporary sign is waived. The historic district can have, well, I put 20 square foot. I would have liked a 25 square foot or equal to whatever a church or other group was allowed. I think they were allowed up to 25 square feet. And I kind of, I'd like to be at least a 25 square feet. The neon signs, that was in there. I put 20 square feet in the village, and there's an area for churches and other fraternal orders or whatever that they can have their signs at 25 square feet. If they can, I think businesses can too. Neon signs, that they're not blinking, but they can be surrounding a window. Let's see, what else? Banners, I know I wanted banners to be in there a certain amount of time. Temporary banners for opening a store, things like that. Historic review for the village, I'd like to see it eliminated altogether. but I made concessions in there, and I want to just make sure that those concessions were in there also.
My personal opinion about historic review is that it's something that should be encouraged but not mandated.
Right, at least for the sign, but the way that 806 was written, it required that you go through this long drawn-out process and took 45 days to get approval and everything else, and meanwhile, here's somebody that's renting a building, they can't even put a sign up because they're going through a review.
Well, a lot of the fallout from changing ordinances is going to be people come back and say, well, you have this ordinance or this regulation over here, or this board, committee, whatever the case might be, and that's just going to drag some more of those instances out. So.
Yeah, I know. The height of the signs and the size of the signs for the Pinelands Plaza, those type of areas, we wanted to at least raise it up higher so that it could be easily visible from the street. I don't know how you're writing that. If you're making general terms or whatever, then that's fine. But those items have to be there. The other area was the Pinelands Plaza plus the village, what's it called, the Ironstone Village. That sign is atrocious. You try to go by it and you can't see anything on it. It has to be larger and be allowed to be larger so that they can, so people can read it. This is a safety issue too. Right. Accidents occur all the time because people can't read what they're looking for. Fonts, all fonts and colors are allowed on the signs. That's important too because in the village they restricted what fonts could be done. I think the only color that I said not to allow would be fluorescent.
Fluorescent is still on here.
Yeah, and that's fine. Other than that, I'd like to look at what you wrote and help you in any way if I could. The other thing is, one other thing, you had mentioned a bill that, there's one more area that you have to put on your list. And as far as planning, this has been going on for 6 years. Now, how much has that planner been paid for the past 6 years to go through this?
Yes.
That's another name to be put on your list.
I understand. Believe me, it is under review.
Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, and for your information, the EDC, Economic Development Commission, is working on things to help the township, in the area that you're talking about, with readables and things like that. They meet every fourth Monday of the month, and they'll be looking forward to your input, if you want to attend that meeting. Absolutely, I've been involved in it.
Mr. Daniel, I can almost guarantee that if this governing body appoints you to that committee, that whether they like you there or not.
They may not like you after that.
No.
We're not worried about that.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mingolette. Anyone else?
Not here to be loved.
Motion to close public portion.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I think we have a report from Mr. Guzzi.
Oh, yeah, engineer's report.
Oh, yeah.
We forgot we invited the engineer. You've been so quiet over there. It's not on.
It's not on the agenda, and I should have mentioned it at the beginning. It wasn't included because we did the agenda before we got the report.
That's fine. Just for council information, we'll plan on coming to your first meetings of the month so that we can present any reports we may have, and you'll get our reports in advance.
Is there anything pressing right now that you think we need to bring it back to the next meeting? Or?
The only thing tonight really that would be pressing would be the intersection improvements in New Freedom and Church.
Do you want to bring it back to the next meeting?
We're waiting until do we know when the county's going to start that work?
I would think.
We're not sure when the meeting's not closed
Can
yet.
we ask the public to move out if they're going to, because the meeting's still being...
You know what, we didn't close the meeting yet.
Sorry, I can't hear you guys at all.
Sorry. All right, so let's take the intersection issue and then everything else will...
Yeah, that's fine. That's really the critical thing, because this is related to Jeff Lucas, who's a resident on New Freedom Road, had expressed some concerns regarding the ongoing county improvements at the intersection of Church and New Freedom. He was planning on being here tonight, but he was took ill, so he's not here. But I did promise him I would, bring it up. I did email to everyone a report that included a little bit of the history and the status of that project. Basically, we reviewed with him on site the improvements as they are now, and they're not completed yet. They're not finished yet. And we share a concern with respect to the maneuver when a car is coming from Vincenttown on Church, making a left-hand turn onto New Freedom. It's a very sharp turn, and as designed, there's going to be a potential conflict with a car that's parked on New Freedom or waiting at New Freedom to make a left onto Church. And if you have the report that we've done, that has a copy of the county sketch. The county's proposal includes a little concrete island or divider, and I have a plan here too if you don't have it with you.
Right, so it was part of your email.
Yes, and the concrete divider really is to divide the right and the left-hand turning lane, as opposed to what Mr. Lucas is suggesting would be a better idea, to shift that concrete island over so that it separates the opposing travel lanes. So on one side you'd have the right and the left turn lane coming off New Freedom, then the concrete barrier, and then the incoming lane. I talked to the county, both the design engineer and the county engineer. The county at this point is taking the position, listen, let us finish the project. There's still curbing and concrete work that has to be done, and then we'll monitor the situation, and if additional improvements are warranted at that point, we'll make them. So basically, from your perspective, from our perspective, we're looking for some guidance if the council wants to basically, push the county a little bit on this, if you think that maybe those changes now are warranted, or as a fallback to just put a letter to the county letting them know that we understand you're going to proceed, but you're going to monitor this, and if there's an issue, once the intersection improvements are complete, at that point you'll revisit the design.
Quick question: is the county engineer a full-time employee of the county, or is he working for a firm?
Yes. It's employee. It's not a consultant. It's not a consultant, but Joe Brickley's the county engineer right now, and this project actually predated him. Right. In other words, he wasn't the county engineer at the time, so he wasn't involved with the design. He's expressed concern that these plans were available to the public, and there was a hearing about it, and there wasn't any issue with the design at that point, but now there is. So that's why he's inclined to proceed with the plan that freeholders approved. Basically saying, let me finish the project, and then if you think there's a problem, we'll look at it. The problem, from our perspective, is once they finish the project, they're not going to want to come back. So we want to be able to put them on notice and say, hey, based on our discussions, we understand if there's a problem, if we're not happy with it, if it doesn't seem to work, you're going to come back and fix it.
Well, here's my only concern. Right now, Medford Township's cost share in that project is virtually nothing. Right. If we delay the county, the first thing we're going to hear back from them, if we start poking at them, is, oh, sure, we'll do that, but you're going to foot the bill. And this is broad brush. That's my first concern. Right. My concern with not taking action, simply writing a letter saying, hey, you said you were going to monitor this, like you said, nothing, that project will be done, nothing will ever happen. So in my mind, at this point, the township really, we don't have the money to fix the problem because the county's going to ask us to fix it. On the other hand, if the county moves forward and finishes the project's done, there are no more delays. If it is as perceived that this is going to be a significant problem, then okay, yeah, we'll harass the county and get them to correct it based on, something, assuming they gave us something in writing that says they're...
Well, that's why before, what comes out of tonight's meeting is a letter one way or the other. If we're going to, if the policy is going to be to let it proceed with as designed, let's at least go on record as saying, we talked about this, we have a concern here, and, we understand you agree to look at it after it's constructed, and if there is a problem, address it at that point.
What is the impact, number-wise, to the general public in Medford?
It's really going to be, it's the whatever traffic hits New Freedom Road, basically between, Ayerstown and Church.
It serves Medford, Chase, and Brookside. I drive this every day, and Mr. Lucas raised it, but I appreciate the concern. There is an issue out there, and at this point, they haven't constructed the island. If it's going to be changed, it can be done with minimal effort.
I mean, I look at this.
It's pretty hairy looking.
I mean, who designed this? I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Elizabeth, Jeff brought it to my attention, and I looked at it, and honestly, again, you see what I'm talking about. That left-hand turn is a very sharp turn, and if there's a car sitting there waiting to make a left on Church,
and there's no island there.
There's no way.
When they construct that island, it's going to be even. Right now, you can move over.
That's my point. Maybe this is a stupid comment. Why do we need the island? Get rid of it. Don't put the island in there. Put the left-hand turning lane where the island is and make it so you get a wider turn. I mean, so you can make a wider turn. What do you need concrete for? Get rid of it. There, they just saved the money.
But we need concrete.
I just saved the money.
Well, somebody didn't sell concrete.
Well,
obviously not a concrete salesman.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
The island is useless.
Well, where it is isn't necessarily I don't think the greatest layout there. Listen, it was a difficult intersection to begin with. Certainly, it'll be better than what it was.
I'd like the engineer to stand there so we can vote him off the island.
Which is moving it over is not. It's an easy fix, and it's something that if we push it a little bit, no effort, no cost. I would like to see this.
If we're talking a no cost effort, and we're talking a letter telling the county, hey, piss poor design, piss poor planning on your part, we don't want to eat this later, fix it.
Yeah, that's really some street.
Mr. Watson?
$7.20. We're fine with that. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
I looked at the picture as well, and I can't figure out why.
It's not good.
Why would you split the lane? I don't get it.
Council, I just, on this same project, if you've been out there at night, there's one light now between the two new intersections. I've directed Public Works to have PSE&G move the one light from the middle pole to the one intersection, and we're going to install another one. It's probably $7 a month charge. It's nominal, but I think the lighting would help part of the concern at night, just so you're aware of that.
Does the island add any value in your professional opinion, or is that something that you really...
I'm not crazy about where it is, because it's separating the left-hand turn lane. It's forcing the left-hand turn closer to that oncoming traffic coming around.
I would just, to keep it moving, because we still have just have the engineers raise your objection with the county.
We'll send a letter to the council.
We're in
agreement. They should be looked at.
We're in agreement. Okay, draft that letter.
Sorry.
Okay. Executive session. We had to add to executive session.
Contract matters relating to the public defender. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah, we got an answer back from the JIF, and we have to add public defender contract in reference to insurance coverage to executive session resolution ES 0306-2012. I have a motion, and for the public, we're going to executive session to discuss matters not open to the public. The Open Public Meetings Act allows us to do this. We will come back out of executive session. I don't believe any action is going to be taken.
I don't anticipate any.
Don't anticipate any. And close the meeting at that point. You're welcome to stay around, but again, I don't anticipate any action, so we're simply going to adjourn after executive. So may I have a motion, please?
Move.
Second.
Adjourn to executive.
Where's the vote?
Aye.
I think, I think just put together what they want. I'm so sorry. Send it back to me.
Where do you go?
What always happens, I think we end up stopping for a break.
I'll wait for that.
Does he have to be here to adjourn?
What time tomorrow? Did we set a time?
We did set it. Can I give you a call in the afternoon? Or do you want to go over? I have a meeting at 9:30.
You call me when you're ready, and I'll, if I'm not ready, I'll tell you when I will be.
It'd just be easier if I had it in front of me to answer questions.
Yes, sir. Reopen the public portion of the meeting. No action taken in executive session. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Second.